All right, all right, all right. Okay, hold on here. Oh, it's very strong stop there on the music. Sorry about that, guys. Hello. What a great start to a Monday stream. Surprise Monday stream. Surprise, surprise. Okay, we're here. We're queer. If you guys don't know, that music is my original stream music. I use two specific artists and I just felt like switching it up. So links in the chat for Samantha Dragonati, who does the music you were listening to just now. Very talented musician and composer, like very, very talented. So you can check out her YouTube channel. Now, today's special stream is because y'all linked me, okay, this interview. And there's just no time to fit it into the regular stream schedule as we finish Frenemies. So we're going to watch it together today. It's not very long. I thought I'd pop in for a quick hello and pop back out. I also just finished editing the second part of episode 1 for Love is Blind. So that will be out after the stream once YouTube approves it. YouTube does this thing where if it doesn't approve the edit, it just blocks it in all countries. So it's not like I'm fighting them for monetization. Sometimes I don't even bother. I'm fighting them just to put the video on YouTube. But they've actually accepted my last edit after only like 4 or 5 edits. So that's pretty good. Now, with that said, okay, now that we're warmed up, hello. This interview is the Vial Files, going deeper with Nick and Sandy. This is a request. I'm here for it. I'm excited. Let's do it. Let me know how the volume is. I'm going to do it at normal speed for now, but we can always move it to 1.2 speed after. Apparently, y'all, and according to the comments and my Discord, this is a very toxic interview. But I have not watched it yet, so I'm excited. Okay, hope you guys are having a great Monday. Thank you for spending time with me. Let's do this. Dun 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 dun.
Nick, nice to meet you.
Hi, Natalie. Welcome
Well, you're the
in.
first one here, so you get to pick which seat you want.
How are you, Nick?
Good.
Good. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me.
On a scale of
Whoa,
1 to
whoa,
10,
whoa.
are you nervous to do this?
Volume okay or volume weird? My OBS is peaking.
Just excited to do this?
No, I think the nerves are through and past. Yeah, it was a wild ride. I mean, it's been some time, so
Seemed wild.
I think that we're all in different places now.
Well, here we get to finally set the record straight.
We will dig into it.
Mm.
I can hear it.
I don't know what to expect. I'm excited.
I mean, I didn't know what to expect either.
Well, I'm glad you're here, man.
Me too.
And I'm glad you're doing better.
It'd be hard to be doing worse, I suppose, than that experience for sure.
Man, he already seems grumpy, bro. We're not even a minute in.
Sure.
Hi. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
You're going to be right by Nick.
You're right there.
Hi,
how are you? Thanks for
Hi. So good to meet you.
So
I'm a
excited.
big fan. I love you guys. I've been listening to your podcast for years.
We love that.
Yay. Well, that's good.
Document this hug.
Yeah, I know.
We're going to be fighting soon. I'm kidding.
I know. You hate me. I don't blame you.
No. We don't hate you. We don't love everything we
Okay,
saw
neither
on a
do
edited
I.
show. So
No,
like,
it's okay. Neither do I, guys.
Oh.
I do not blame you. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Okay, so they seem to be strangers, which is good because I want them to be strangers. Also, he dresses like a child and not in a fun way. Look, I cannot wait to be an eccentric grandma who's not a grandma because I think eccentric old people are the best. But Nick isn't eccentric. He's immature. Do we know the difference? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you know how they say, like, you're old, you shouldn't be dressing that way? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you being old has nothing to do with how you dress. But there's a type of old person that dresses in a particular way that I'm like, somebody hasn't matured. Somebody is lacking wisdom. And I feel like it's this aesthetic right now. Like, you're 40 years old. Can we get an upgrade? Same style, different upgrade. You know what I'm saying?
Good.
Good to see you.
I know. Good to see you.
okay.
She said, I know. Good to see me.
Thanks.
Oh, all same for it.
He dressed up for the occasion.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hi.
Nick and Sandy
Awkward.
reunite.
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your guys' anxiety level right now?
Before this, it was a 10. Right now, I feel actually pretty calm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could have been worse.
I feel like there's a good energy in here, and it's nice being, seeing Nick. So I feel pretty calm right now. We'll see in
Okay.
like 5 minutes.
Okay. when we dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think being with humans
Yeah.
is a lot easier than being with social media.
How have you been handling?
How's our heart?
Yeah, how is your heart? Yeah. Thank you, Sandy. She's trying to get brownie points before we really get started.
No, I was like waiting for
No,
you to
truly,
ask that.
yeah. Why didn't you ask
Yeah.
that?
We haven't really asked it a ton lately. But how
Yeah.
is your heart?
It's been better. It's been better for sure.
How's your heart, Nick?
It's a struggle to go through what we went through and then have so many opinions get thrown around that, are not based on true life interactions with either of us. And
When you mean by true life interactions?
I think that, the show gives a perspective on a moment in time that we were dealing with, which was tremendously difficult. And as far as my social media experience prior to this, it was pretty much purely based on work. It wasn't personal.
Yeah.
So I never opened my phone to people making comments about myself or Sandy or any of the other people that went through this with us. So it's challenging to
I don't know about this. Also, should we 1.2 speed it? It feels very slow to my ears, but I cannot tell. What do you guys think? I already feel like he's being shifty, but that's Nick.
not take it personally and kind of ground yourself through, the fact that this is through a lens that other people are witnessing, and just try to stay truthful with what we know to be. And
Are you staying offline though, or are you actually going on and
Right? It does feel slow. I think normal people talk slow, and we're just too neurodivergent for this. 1.5 or 1.25.
seeing what people think?
I would say that in the beginning, I was definitely paying a little bit more attention, and I recognized that for my mental sanity
yeah.
that, it's not.
I can imagine
necessarily
it must
something-
also be hard because it's like the one person that you would talk to, who went through this with you and who knows you're broken
point.
up. So it's
Yeah.
like you can't really talk to that person. So it's like there is no really safe space.
When did you guys film the reunion?
About a month ago.
About a month ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was the last time you guys saw each other in person?
Last time I saw him in person. But I will say we've actually been like good supports for each other through all of this. Like Nick and I, we would not be sitting here together if we didn't still like care about each other and love each other as humans. And so to your point, Natalie, I actually we have leaned on each other through this because it's so weird. I mean, you've been on reality shows, like people don't understand unless you've gone through it, and then throw in our real life relationship, real life issues that we truly struggled with. And now they're just like all over the TV for the entire world to judge. It's a really weird.
It is really weird. Also, I had to change some of my audio settings, so let me know if my voice is clipping at all. It shouldn't be clipping out my words, but just let me know. It is weird, and it must be weird, and this must be weird that I'm sitting here as a YouTuber reviewing real people's lives, and I just want to say, I hope they never really watch my videos because it's really not for them. It's for us. I hate to say it, but it's also perfect that they get to be messy in public so we can learn to be less messy in our lives. But that doesn't take away from the fact that they are real people and they might see this video. But I think in order for humanity to kind of learn life lessons, we also have to have these real life examples. And so, I don't ever imagine that the cast would watch my videos. And I really don't want them to, in a way. Because I know how painful it is for me to watch videos of me and people take me out of context. Maybe it'd be better if you watched people just not twist your words so much. And we try really hard not to twist these people, out of context. It's just difficult not to feel like we're being correct in our assessments, but editing plays a role. How we see people plays a role. But this is kind of, even as a YouTuber, you almost wish you were never clippable in a sense. And it's impossible to do that, especially live. I was just listening to Iman Pokimane talk about this on Colin and Samir. And she was saying, obviously, it'd be nice if I was never clippable, but there are going to be moments as a streamer where you're going to be clippable. And same with these shows, they're trying to get you to be clippable. So it's more interesting for the audience. And I know I've seen different seasons of either Love is Blind or Ultimatum or other dating shows where it's pretty calm and not that toxic, and people found it to be boring. So there's something to be said about our human brain's desire to see some level of adrenaline feeling, adrenaline toxicity. I can't, a part of me doesn't want to fault humans, and a part of me is why aren't we happy just seeing happy people? Why do we want to see the toxicity? Why am I streaming on a Monday when I should be doing something else? Honestly, I had a great day today and I slept like really well. So I feel energetic and that's also why I'm here. I also just like had the spoons. But more than that, why am I here? Because this might be interesting. Because I'm kind of excited to see them, you know, I want to see Sandy healthier and I want to see Nick. I don't know. I don't want to see Nick do anything. But I want to know that Sandy is far from this. But the way she just said that last sentence tells me that they are still friends, which doesn't sound great. But then when they came into the show today, they seemed like they hadn't seen each other. So now I'm a little confused, but let's keep listening, I guess.
Thing to go through, and it's hard. But I do think that we've shown up for each other throughout this process, you know, as best as we can, because we are broken up.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, even though we're broken up, I still have so much care and gratitude for the experiences we had prior to the show. And there's a reason we were so connected on so many levels. And
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm in a bit of a, I don't want to see or hear anything negative towards her.
Negative.
I mean, she had her experience.
Yeah.
I had my experience, but for me, I feel very protective of her when it comes to people saying things that are way outside of who her actual character is. It doesn't.
Who said anything bad about Sandy? I mean, I guess we weren't sure about Sandy in the beginning, but I think we all liked her by the end of it.
Feel good for me. You know, I think that what a lot of people are seeing is the end of a real relationship. And,
Yeah.
you know, the experience provided a rapid departure for the relationship. And it wasn't the healthiest way for us to move apart, but
Well, I don't know if there's any healthy way to break up. It certainly went out with a bang. You know, there's that. What is both of yours one biggest regret in terms of your conduct on the show? Without blaming editing, without
no.
just like something that you watched back and you were like,
Who is this host? I don't know this YouTuber at all. Hold on. 200,000 subscribers, Nick Vale. His intro had like celebrities and stuff in it. The comments just are ripping Nick apart. Who is this guy? Who is this man?
not love that I did that. I wish I would have done that differently.
I can only pick one.
You can pick multiple, but I'd love to.
I'm like, there's
well, it's
lots.
just like we have a lot of questions,
Yeah.
a lot of things we want to cover,
100%.
but I am curious, you know, before we like lay in or just be like,
Yeah.
why the fuck did you guys do this? I'm just curious off the bat if that was more like I definitely.
Oh, Discord said he was on The Bachelor. What? I have never seen this man in my life. Interesting.
Did not love how I handled myself that way.
More of this, less of what the other stuff I was drinking.
Yeah.
I would say, you know, it's pretty clear, I think.
It wasn't clear, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Were you drinking a lot of alcohol?
Yeah, I wasn't sleeping. You know, I was having a very difficult time being in my apartment. And it just kind of tallied up, and I was far more emotionally volatile or reactive than I would ever want to show up for somebody that I care for, no matter how crazy the experience was. I don't feel that I showed up with my true authentic self. And I think that's hard to digest in any scenario, especially when you have to watch it on.
Is that
I find it hard to believe that wasn't his true authentic self in a sense, but maybe not his grounded self. I think that's fair. I don't think when you're on alcohol, you're grounded, most authentic self. So that's true. If he was drinking, then we couldn't see Nick, but makes me wonder how much alcohol would he drink in his normal relationship, because that will be the difference. But I think he's right to say that drunk him isn't the most real him. I think that's true.
something you struggled with beforehand, or did kind of, it help you through the show?
So I've had my ebbs and flows with it. I think that I recognized through the experience that I needed to take a harder look at it.
Okay.
It had been something that came up in our relationship prior, and that I would go, I would sometimes feel like I had it together, and then sometimes I would dip back into it. And I don't think that I was getting the kind of mental health support and system, and I wasn't putting the right structure in place for me to not use, things to escape.
Well, I mean, when it comes to doing reality TV, if you go into that experience using any substance as a coping mechanism, chances are that will only increase, not decrease, because those spaces, they don't have support systems. It's all about putting you on an emotional island and seeing how you react. That's kind of what all these experiments
Right.
are. So there is that. What about you?
There's a lot. Like, I normally am not the type of person that's like, oh, I regret something, because there are learning lessons through everything, truly. And there have been a lot of learning lessons through this, but I can't lie when I say, like, there's a lot of things that I would just do differently, truly. I think if I can pinpoint one of them, it would probably just be my overall, like, attitude and kind of my frustrations that I was holding on to towards Nick through the process, and just like me not really considering what he was going through. Because it's very clear to everybody else, of course. It's very,
It did seem.
I don't understand this. Why does she keep saying, like, especially with what he was going through? I guess because they were together, it would make sense that she would be concerned about him in that sense and then want to give him some level of reassurance, I suppose. And maybe there was something to that could have been communicated better. I just don't like the narrative, I think. But then at the same time, I'm trying to think about like, okay, what if I was Sandy? Like, what if I was literally Sandy and I had been with this guy for 3 years and I'm on this show and he's downstairs and I'm with a complete stranger that I just met? I mean, yeah, I guess it'd be really freaking weird, but also then why didn't you just leave? Like Dave and Vanessa left. You know what I mean? It feels like the end of a toxic relationship. And this is why you don't stay friends with your exes, especially your toxic exes. There's just nothing good that's going to come about that.
Like you lack the appropriate amount of empathy.
Right. And I see that now. And in the moment, you guys like,
no, I hate, I don't like that narrative because God knows Sandy, based off her mother and her sister, has been the emotional laborer through the whole relationship. And it feels like one of those things where toxic partners expect you to be empathetic to them as they're literally abusing you. And it's like, you know, at some point from one autistic girl to all of you, it's enough. It's enough. Okay. We can't keep meeting abusers where they're at. I'm so sick of it because they're certainly not meeting you where you're at. Okay.
it's so hard to see other people's experience because it's so intense for yourself. And it was really, really intense. And there's a lot of things that happen.
Or rather, we meet abusers where they're at, which the bar is in hell at that point. So like, don't go down to hell, you know, like meet them where they're at. If that means not, you know, being aware of the situation, but like, don't do the labor for them, which is what I think Nick and everyone's kind of demanding that Sandy does. And maybe I saw a different edit, but I felt like she was spending her whole time thinking about Nick, being on the phone with Nick, you know, being comforting to Nick in a way that is sort of balanced with JR being there. I don't know.
And that we don't see in regards to me and Nick and kind of what we're talking about here that made it just worse and worse and worse. And yeah, I mean, I think it just got out of hand, but that's definitely something for me because I care about this man so much and our love has never been the issue. Like, it's never been a problem for us. And it really is hard for me to watch because it just looks like I don't give a shit, you know? When really
that's just not true. That's not true at all. Who gave Sandy this feedback? It's not true. I did not get the impression that Sandy did not care. That is not the impression I got at all.
Was hurting myself.
I mean, are you able to elaborate, Nick? Just because, to be honest, I felt like, I don't know, were you protected by the edit or not? But watching it back, I mean, as a viewer, it was like, why is Nick apologizing constantly to this woman?
Yeah.
And why is for what appeared to be no reason.
I agree with this experience. It's right. Like I signed up. I signed on the dotted line for us to break up. We were in a place where I think this actually, had it been a healthier setting for both of us, we would have gotten a healthier answer, but probably would have arrived at the same point. You know, I think we were trying to find the next thing to either bring us absolutely together forever or break up. And I went into it, I would say maybe a little flippant and arrogant that it would be fun. And, you know, we would kind of laugh about the experience and come back in this loving, oh my God, I missed you. And how could we do this? And obviously that didn't go down the way that I thought. And so I spun out. I was very emotional and being alone through that, I was basically, I would say I was contacting Sandy to the point where it had to be uncomfortable for her to be dealing with that. I was not in a grounded place.
Yeah.
I was texting and calling incessantly and not knowing what to do. Would I look back now? Should I have left? Maybe so at that point. I was committed to trying to get through the pain to experience our time together. And I look at it and see
did you say anything like crazy? I'm watching and being like,
what am I watching? What am I watching? Do not let the misogynist gaslight you. Do not let these misogynists gaslight you. I'm being gaslit. What? Thank you, Tubbies. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Welcome to memberships. I am being gaslit. I am being literally I'm so mad. I'm so angry for Sandy. What? I'm changing the title of my video right now. I'm changing the title of my video. Sandy gets dogpiled by misogynists. What?
like, I consider myself to be pretty chill and not jealous. and I'm very emotionally regulated. But if like my girlfriend was, living above me with another dude, and again, I'd love your commentary, but it seemingly looked like you were being dismissed constantly. I don't know how I would handle it if my girlfriend was telling me to fuck off. It just seemed like that.
There's just so much that you guys that nobody sees. Obviously,
what are we not seeing?
So I was essentially an absent boyfriend moving into the show, right? I was unsure about if she was going to be able to meet me where I wanted to go. And that's probably not Sandy was in a position in her life where she's excited about LA, kind of culture, like she's immersed in a culture that I've kind of been a part of for a long time and was trying to pull back from. And I think I've said this multiple times, but we arrived at the same destination at different times. And I think that I was pretty cut off from what she needed from me emotionally moving into the show.
How'd you guys end up on the show? Because that's another thing that was like hard to watch. Because there was a lot of like you being like, you brought me here.
Right.
Which
he wanted to do it.
Okay. Did you not want to?
I mean, I was open to doing it, but I originally said no.
Oh my God, they're so annoying. Yo. Discord said, is this normal in straight bubbles? The whole idea of like this dude living above me with my girl. Well, you shouldn't have gone on the show. Like, that's the irony, is like you're two consenting adults on this really shitty show that puts people in really shitty positions. But also, like, what are you thinking? Like, what are you thinking? The way that but then that's what I'm saying. Girls, please listen to me. This is what I'm saying when I say the world is so unhealed. Like, that's why my channel looks crazy to people when people are like, what is Brittany talking about? What do you mean you treat your partner with dignity and you don't abuse or toxic or, cheat on them? Or like, they're literally, did they watch the same show as me? I know I edit a lot out of my episodes, but I don't edit that much out. Like, I try to keep the context of the flavor in because I have to edit for YouTube to accept my videos. I try to keep the context, even if I edit out little like words here and there, I try to really keep the energy of the scene in so you guys so you as the viewer understand the type of people. Like, there are things I keep in on my edits on purpose so you guys get the fuller picture as much as I can give you before YouTube copyrights me. And I just feel like this is what's so frustrating to me when I see these shows. Watch, the next interview is, Scotty, why did you let Aria treat you this way? You were so passionate. Where's the Scotty defenders? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, watching people defend Nick and Scotty is just going to make my blood boil. Who needs to work with these men? Therapists, not anybody else.
Okay.
I got reached out to and I declined. I was like, that's not something that I want to do. Our relationship is not that serious to go into like a marriage proposal. And
so before this, they weren't even serious enough in her mind to get married?
Very off and on in our relationship. Okay. And I think that's something to note. Him and I had not been dating for 2.5 years. We had known each other for 2.5 years.
That changes everything. Oh my God. And then Nick, forced her into wanting to get married? Chat says, and a new stylist with peace and love, with peace and love, with peace and love. So basically, on again, off again for 2.5 years, not even consistent dating, so toxic that she was just like, we need to relax,
And we had been actually dating for about 9 months before going on the ultimatum. And within those 9 months, we had broken up maybe 5-6 times.
Holy shit, bro. Wait, this makes so much sense.
Text we did not know.
Exactly.
Wow.
So it's very different than being in a solid 2.5 year committed relationship. It's very true. But we had this love that was undeniable.
Wait, interesting. Chat says, when the new season came out, I was a Nick defender. Then I rewatched it with your videos and it made sense that Sandy deserves way better. He's insane. Oh, interesting. What did you see when you first watched it that we didn't see when we first watched it? Like, what was it about Nick that made him so sick? Because at first, remember when remember when Nick was with Vanessa? And I thought, okay, he seems fine. But then it went quickly downhill because even my chat was like, oh, I'm so glad you realized Nick was toxic. Because when Nick was with Vanessa at first, I was like, okay, whatever. He's just like an artsy guy, whatever. But it was very quickly, very clear after that, like, oh no, like absolutely not. Like, there's something here for sure. Let's see. Nice with Vanessa was seemingly normal, but then, yeah, we're so wrong. Yeah, like he was. Yeah, exactly. Wow. Isn't that amazing? I wonder if other people too saw the show and just maybe watched it with a particular lens. because I really try like to be aware, just like we're reviewing frenemies. I try to be aware that like, you know, the place you are in your life can change how you perceive something. The mood you're in that day can change how you perceive something. You know, every, you know, it can just change everything. You know, Chet says, didn't they give Sandy a party girl narrative at first? Yeah, that's true. They did paint her as the party girl who was 27, 28, didn't want to settle down. Then she got with JR, which was like F-boy energy. So then they look like a party couple, which, to be fair, is not a horrible, you know, I'm not saying that's bad in your 20s or whatever, but Sandy seemed a lot more mature by the end of the series than just some party girl. Which, by the way, the new episode of Love is Blind, I have a whole rant about how party culture is actually just misogynistic and how being a party girl is giving into the patriarchy. Thank you. You're welcome.
And we had loved each other. We had said we loved each other before we even actually started dating.
I
So we
believe that.
did love each other for like maybe 2 years or so, but it was very, you know, off and on. But yeah, I mean, we obviously both agreed to it. And yeah, there were moments where I was just like frustrated where, you know, I'm like, you wanted to do this. I think that frustration was more so stemming from the overall like attitude that we both kind of had, but mostly him had moving into it was so like unbothered, we were very silly and playful about it. It was not like this serious somber thing where we're like, oh my God, like we're gonna break up. Like he was really chill about it. And almost to the point where it was like a little bit bothering to me because I'm like, okay, does this not like freak you out? I just had felt pretty like taken for granted in the relationship. And so then I think moving into it, the reason why I'm like, you know, what's going on is because all of a sudden it switched because it got real because we didn't know how intense it was going to be. And
I totally agree. Chet says I need Sandy to let go of the fact that they loved each other. I think she thought she did. I had a crazy man trick me into saying I love you before even dating too. I think even regardless of the love that it is, it's not love strong enough for it to move into the future. Like you need to let it go, girl. She keeps bringing it up as if to say that there's something powerful here. And that's great. The era's over. We're putting it in the closet. We're sending it to storage. Like we're good. Like I get it. I'm with you. You know what I mean? Like we are now strangers. This is why I say, if you're in my past, you are a stranger to me. There's no like, oh my God, I used to know you 10 years ago. You maybe 10 years ago, but like, I don't know you anymore. We are now strangers. You know, I am strangers to my exes. If I ever see you in public, I do not know you because it's crazy to think that we still know each other. Like we're good. You know what I mean? Like people, the audacity of thinking that once you know somebody, you know them for life, like with peace and love, we are now strangers. Okay. And they need to be strangers.
And I think his real heart and like feelings for me showed up like the second we got there. But you guys have to understand, before we got there, it was not like that. But that wasn't because he didn't love me or actually want to be with me. It was just because he was running from his own things or whatnot. So it was like you were avoidant in the relationship. And I moved into the experience with that like all over me. And then I was just like, wait, why is this all of a sudden flipped, you know, now that we're here?
No, I can totally see
Yeah.
your confusion on that end of, I mean, you said multiple.
Hold on. Chat. Oh, hold on. Where's my video? Chat. Chat says, is it love or was she tricked into feeling responsible for him like a mother loves a child? Well, a mother does love her child. But I will say that Dr. Kurkanda talks about this, how after a bad breakup, we try to trick ourselves into thinking we never loved that person. But the reality is like, you're allowed to say you loved somebody and you just don't love them anymore. And I used to say that. I used to think, did I never love my exes? And I was like, no, I did. I did love them. I know I loved them. But I used to ask myself, like, if I love them, like, why didn't it work? And it's because you can love people and still move on from them. And that's the hard part for people because they think love means something that it doesn't mean. It means only what it means within context. So I just want to encourage people to be okay saying I loved my ex, I loved my abuser, and I've moved on from that love. Like it was there, it was real when it was happening, but I've moved on and the love is somewhere else now. Like the love isn't present anymore. It doesn't exist in the same way. That person doesn't mean everything. You know, it's just what it is. It's an end of an era, you know? I think it's freeing because I know I loved my partners. I cried enough about it. Like I love them. I was happy around them when it was good. Like I know there was a part of them that I loved. It just didn't carry on into the future. You know, it just didn't carry on.
Times you felt neglected in the
Yeah.
relationship. And then, you know, I get your point where it's like now you see her with another man and you're like, hold on, what the fuck? I want you. I love you. You know, you always want what you can't have. Why was there so many breakups in your relationship before coming on the ultimatum?
I think it has to do with some of the kind of the emotional turmoil or whatnot that Nick had been going through, and obviously like you can speak more to it. But there was just a lot of like instability, I think, in terms of like the surface level of our dynamic in our lifestyle and our relationship. But
See how they say like the relationship didn't work? We were breaking up and getting back together again because there was instability. You can have two good people without that instability who still can't figure out why they're compatible. I really have defaulted to talking about compatibility because all of my life, I used to not understand why the breakups were happening, and it would really confuse me. And I realized like, okay, it's not because people would say, okay, what if I change that behavior? So you'll be with me if I change that behavior. Maybe not. Or why don't you date this person? They're perfect on paperwork, like their perfect resume, you know? Yeah, but it's like not your person. And then people go, oh, you're so like spoiled. You want to be with this perfect person. Like just marry this person. You know, they want to encourage you to settle. But I want to say that there is not one reason why you don't choose a person or one reason why you do choose a person. Like if you asked me, why did I choose my partner? I can't just tell you that. I could name all of the superficial reasons why. You know, he's compassionate and loving and fantastic and open-minded and introspective and considerate. And none of that does justice to what we have. None of it really explains why I chose this person, why they chose me. I can't even get down to the detail because it's so personal and private. But more than that, it's communicated between us perfectly. When I talk, it's like we're talking. It's like being seen. It's literally being seen in the most amazing way possible. More than a parent could ever see me, more than a best friend could ever see me, more than anyone on this planet could ever really see my consciousness. So, you know, you're asking me to put that into words, and this is the best I got. Like, it's the best I have. And it's healthy and it's fabulous. Like every relationship I've had before this, before we even dated, there were problems. Before we even dated, there were really problems, kind of like them, honestly. Like there were problems when we were dating. There were problems. It was never not without a problem. It was exhausting. I've been living with this person for almost 2 years. I've almost known them for 3 years. And it has been just the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. It is so amazing. It is just the greatest experience with another person that I've ever had in my life. It's easy. It's safe. It's fun. We laugh all the time. We've never fought, even when we've had miscommunications, which happens, or maybe like something's come up from past trauma. We're so loving and comforting, and we're like so good at being there for each other that honestly, we kind of amaze ourselves. We're like, damn, we really are good at being here for each other. Like we're so healthy that we shock ourselves. We're like, did we just do that? And we laugh about it because we know that we used to be different people. And we know that, you know, those were skills we had to earn. Those were like ways of communicating we had to mess up on to kind of be these people. And so, you know, I think about past Brittany and how bad her communication style was in comparison to this Brittany. And I just think, wow, like it really matters being good at communication. It really matters being thoughtful. And it really matters seeing the person that you're with. If you can't see the person that you're with, you know, you're always going to feel alone. And I don't want to feel alone in my marriage. And that is a very common experience for a lot of people out there. And I don't recommend it, you know? Chad says, yep, my partner sees me, looks into me, learns me. Even the parts of me I hate, they see and tell me they love. And so it is so healing. Yeah, there's just something so wonderful about being with somebody who really sees you. And, you know, we're never like, guys, I never think about anyone else. I never think about another life. When I was in my other relationships, I would think, is there a better life for me? I think I'd be happier single. Like I used to fantasize about being single so I could just be in my apartment doing crafts. Like I was never the person who wanted to be single so I could date other people. I was like, I just want to be single so I can do my arts and crafts without being bothered. And now I can be married and do that. And that says a lot. The fact that I can just do my hobbies and being in a marriage where I wasn't like punished for just like enjoying myself or like living my life, and I'm able to be responsible. Amen.
in terms of like underneath that, our actual connection and love for each other, we always like would find a way back to each other because we really, really do love each other. So
yeah, I think that's something that wasn't shown a lot of. Is Sandy and I started as very, very good friends. And
No. You don't keep finding yourselves back with each other because you love each other. You keep finding yourselves back with each other because you're too toxic to get out of this cycle. Sorry.
Have a physical connection, but she had come out of a relationship. I was very much ready to commit. I had been in a point in my life with her where we had been dating, but I was ready and she wasn't. And she was very honest about that. But I had to essentially say at this point, like, I can't continue to be physical with you anymore because I'm not getting the emotional side of you that I'm yearning for. And
He kind of gave me like a mini ultimatum. Like,
and I
exactly.
did. And then I started to see somebody else and she came
Wow, you and I are the same, Nick.
full twist and said, I recognize that I love you. I recognize that I want to be in a relationship with you. I am here to commit. That relationship that I was in was very easy to depart from. And we then made a commitment to each other. We'd always had a lot of fun together. We had a lot of good stuff going.
We
but
had a really beautiful relationship.
I think if you look at
I don't know if they're saying they cheated with one another or they're saying that he was casual with somebody else and she said, would you like to break up with them to be with me? Which is like fair because dating is to see if you want commitment. So I guess that's appropriate. But are they saying they cheated with each other? Or are they saying that because there is a weird situation where you could be dating somebody and you're not like committed in a sense, like for life. And then somebody's like, hey, I want to be with you. Would you be willing to break up with that person to be with me? And if not, I'll never talk to you again type thing. And I guess you could, but is that cheating? I don't know. I guess it depends on how they did it.
Get the cadence of it, me having that, need for, it kind of came full circle for both of us. Because I had the initial, like, I can't do this. You're not getting me what you need. And maybe I was carrying resentment from that I didn't acknowledge. I think that I was, I don't really feel like I'm a jealous person. So when she would go out and go to events or parties or whatnot, I would just, have a good time, like, see you later, see you when you get home. It wasn't something that I really wanted to be involved in. But I did feel when I got to the show that thing that I guess, listen, I'm sure at some point in my life I've been cheated on. I don't know. I'm not for certain, but I can just tell, like, I don't know that feeling because I've never specifically seen or felt what it felt like. And that emotion is really intense. And to see her with JR so quickly have a connection and have it be like, it was obvious that even though there were other people attracted to her and other people that wanted her attention, they were magnets. And I was very aware of that from day one.
We were too.
Yeah. And that was a more difficult thing to digest than I could have ever anticipated.
Going into the experience, you guys discuss any like rules or boundaries in terms of like how you guys
That's a good question. I would like to know that as well.
are planned on kind of, you didn't know? None?
No,
I trusted that there wouldn't be like beyond a certain level, but I was also understanding that we were going to be dating other people and that, I may have.
Man, this is such a good example of like this is such a good example of how toxic and unhealthy people are without even knowing it. Like, how'd you go on the show without any conversation about boundaries? It just feels so funny to me. And he's like 40 years old. He's 38 years old, and she's 10 years younger. It's like, where's the thoughtfulness? Where's the wisdom?
Have a connection. She may have a connection. She had asked me one point if, about sex. I said no. So we kind of knew that was off limits.
What do you mean? How'd you ask it? We were like, can we fuck?
No, we just were we actually didn't have very many conversations about the experience or the show leading up to it in general, which I think was our problem.
That's crazy.
We went into it very like, whatever, we kind of winged it. And I will say, like, I tried to have a lot of conversations with you that you didn't want to have, but
Ooh, Discord, hold on. I want to read this. Discord says, I think it's easier for the average person to relate to Nick's position because he was toxically crying over Sandy having fun with JR. Meanwhile, Nick was lonely and wallowing. I feel like with how toxic culture is, it would make sense that people would empathize with him. What's interesting is that I don't know who said it. I think I was watching something. It wasn't my idea. I heard it from somebody else. They said, we're so used, or maybe I did say it and I'm a genius. No, I don't remember. Maybe I don't know if I've said this before. You have to tell me. But basically, there is this phenomenon that happens that because of toxic masculinity and misogyny and patriarchy all working together as the trifecta dark triad, there creates this situation where when men are vulnerable in any way. Oh, I remember what it was. Okay. Those, hold on, stay with me here. Those comic strips where it will show like a dad giving their kids fast food and it's like, fun dad. And then the mom gives it and they're like, lazy mom. Or the dad who's like, got 3 kids on his shoulders or whatever. And they're like, wow, this dad is such a hustler. And then when the mom is doing it, it's just like mom. Or when the dad changes a diaper, they're like, wow, he's so helpful. But when a mom does it, it's just like the default. That's okay. It feels like when men cry because that's so unexpected, it's like, wow, this must be significant. Like, as if it is significant, but it's not significant. So when Nick cries and shows emotion and feels vulnerable, people are like, oh my gosh, I'm not used to seeing this. So it must mean something. Like, oh, a man crying means he must really be hurt. And I'm like, cool. What does it mean when a man hits a woman? He must really be what? Like, let's be so, like, you know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about? So I feel like sometimes I can see people being more empathetic to a man crying because, wow, because I was the amount of men. That's why I say, don't be tricked by a man crying in your arms, because I have been tricked by so many men, family members, friends, lovers, crying in my arms and expecting it to heal or fix any of the bullshit that they did to contribute to the situation. And it gets me every time because I see them cry and I'm like, oh my God, they're being so vulnerable. This must be so real. And then I realize, you little bitch, you tricked me again. Like, you know, shame on me for believing you at your word. You know, it's like, that. So I think that I could see people being more empathetic towards Nick. You know what I mean? Because he had the audacity to cry. Like JR at the end, he cried with Zaina and I was like, oh my gosh. And then during the reunion, he was talking to that other girl and cheating. And I was like, bro, bro.
We did have the conversation around boundaries, and we basically said, like, yeah, no boundaries. I mean,
You
yeah,
asked me specifically if I was bringing condoms.
yeah, it
I
was
said,
like if you were gonna have sex
and I
with
said
anyone.
absolutely not.
Yeah, and so that was clear as day. Like, okay, cool. We don't have to worry about that. But we were open to doing the experiment, like kissing or whatnot. That wasn't, me and Nick have had a very like open mind. We're really open-minded humans. And so that wasn't a crazy concept. It just didn't turn out the way that we
Yeah, it was
had
more,
thought.
I guess it was less about, because you're right, because like, who knows? I mean, sex, who knows? For certain couples, might not need anything. It was more like, I was just surprised, not only just you guys, but just all the couples. It seemed like not a lot of couples had a
Wait, Nick's book is called Don't Text Your Ex Happy Birthday. Oh, maybe is it a book about not talking to your ex-boyfriend ever again? Because Sandy and Nick should read it. Hello?
conversation about like, how can we make sure the other person feels respected in this
Right.
process? Because it definitely doesn't feel like you guys had that conversation about how do we make the other person
Right.
feel respected in this process, given that regardless if it's sex or making out or because if we forget about the sex, what we watched felt like a lot of disrespect in
Right.
both directions between the two of you. And I think that was the most shocking thing for me to watch as a viewer, where it was like, all these couples kind of fucking hate each other. Because like, for a concept of like, you know, a premise of, and again, I appreciate the context you guys offer that maybe you guys weren't as rock solid as we were led to believe
No, we
going
were
in.
not.
But yeah, it was just more like the lack of respect, you know.
Okay, so the host is right here. Interesting. Maybe he was warming them up. I don't know anything about this guy, Nick, so I don't know anything about his life. But that was true. It seemed like everybody hated each other. And it's like, what are you doing? But then don't you kind of have to hate your partner to go on this show a little bit? I just feel like there's no way the love of my life would. That's what I'm trying to say. My perfect partner, this absolute perfect person that walked into my life, perfect for me and I'm perfect for him. He walked into my life. And could you imagine if she was like, hey, let's go on this show where we tested our love? And I'm like, huh? What? If you're so perfect, we would be on the same page. You can't be in a healthy, happy marriage and need to go on the ultimatum. I said what I said. I said what I said. You can't, you know? And that's the point. Even going on the show alone is the sign that you should break up.
Regardless of what your guys' individual boundaries or comfort levels with sex
Totally.
or dating or
Yeah.
whatever, it just,
Yeah.
I was shocked by JR's ability to act like he owned you in front of Nick, and where that confidence level
right.
came
Right.
from, and your seeming support of that behavior around Nick.
JR seeming like he owned you and that behavior around Nick. When? Give me an example. Because just because Nick was looking up into their apartment. When she literally sat on Nick's lap and like when they were back together and made it clear like she's with Nick. When did JR do that in front of Nick? When? Am I confused? I can't think of a situation. Unless Nick was watching them, I don't remember any situation where JR literally did it. He showed more respect for her than Nick did. Oh, literally in the edit, 100% JR was more respectful. The edit did JR pretty good, generally. He was the least of the, like, he wasn't even really on my radar. I think they mean when Nick came to the door. Oh, I'm sorry. Can we talk about rates of death between partners? and talk about how JR had every reason to be protective of Sandy in that situation, given how unhinged Nick was being. And thank God there was somebody a little stronger than her there who could help protect her against a man who was drunk and possibly threatening to her life. Like, what are we talking about? Because if that is the situation that they're thinking of, I'm sorry. Do we think we're not going to have a death on one of these shows one day? Because I am pretty sure that will happen. It's happened before on TV. We had a rape on TV. Do you guys remember that? Attempted assault on television? There was a dating show. I don't remember which one it was, but they were like in a boat and one of the cast members kept going for a sleeping drunk girl. Do you guys know which one I'm talking about? I don't remember what it's called. So like, excuse me, you know, for being glad that JR was there to kind of like, you know, tell Nick, you better back the fuck off. Okay. Is it called Below Deck? Was that what it was called? Ooh, girl. You know, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. Ooh.
I think being there, like you don't have boundaries, whatnot. And okay, you're in these types of experiences. There's obviously, there's kind of rules that they have. I don't know if they have that with Bachelor or not, but like with this, it's like, okay, you guys are broken up. There's no boundaries, whatnot. And so I think I was really trying to take it for what it was, like the whole process and experience and like really dive into all of it. And I think with that, I was kind of like delusional a little bit, like not really able to actually see what was going on. And I just had so much resentment. I was like, you wanted to do this and now we're doing it and now you're upset.
Did you have to convince her to do it?
No.
I mean, no, but he wanted to do it. He was all on board.
Did
and
you not want to do it?
I didn't want to do it at first. And then we
Well,
went through the process and I was very
never
like,
happened.
if it happens, it happens. Like, fine, whatever. But it's,
That was not you. That was not discussed that you didn't want to do that.
No,
Not
I
you
had-
and
I
you may have had your own reservations off.
I had said no. I
and
have
not-
messages
not
of me literally
when
rejecting
you
and
brought
saying
it
no,
to
thank
me.
you.
You know, like I didn't know that you didn't want to do it.
Yeah, these people don't talk to each other. You didn't talk to each other about it?
If I knew that you
I
didn't
brought
want
it
to do
to you saying that somebody reached out to me and I was like, this is obviously like, this is not something that we're going to do. And you wanted to do it. And yes, we all like, we went through the process and it happened. And I'm not saying like that I didn't want to do it. I'm just was more so holding kind of resentment because of your overall, like, just kind of the attitude moving into it where you're like, oh, I can't wait to have all my sexy girlfriends and this and that and da 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 da. Like, you better watch out. It was like very, very playful and joking to the point where I was like, okay, damn. And then we got there and I think I was playing into it too. And then it got way too serious. But I do
I
genuinely
think
like,
taking sarcasm out of context for a very like serious conversation is a little risky, but I can hear what you're saying. And I think that we were trying to make light of it together
Yeah,
as
we
we always
were.
did when we had fun conversations.
yeah,
And I think if you went into this with, a hard nose into the wall and trying to like, there wouldn't be a reason. I did want it to be a fun experience for us. You're a absolutely gorgeous human being. And like, you are going to have the attention of men, no matter if you're with me or with somebody else. So jealousy is not best served in my situation with or without the show. Like
What do you mean by that?
that she's gorgeous. She's going to get attention from men no matter what.
What's that have to? What do you mean by that? though?
So like me being open about it, it doesn't do me any good to try to feed into the idea that I would become jealous. I was just trying to be open-minded that she would have a connection on the show, that I would have a connection on the show. We learn about ourselves through it, and then we get back together and work on the things that we both wanted to have and see where that would end up. The thing is, we did a lot of that. And we did do a lot of work together after, even with our time together.
Mhm.
And even after all the drama and the madness and the things with JR and whatnot, we were able to come together as a couple again and
Mhm.
have some breakthroughs because we recognized.
Chat says, what is happening? I did not just follow what they just said. Nick is like, when Nick talks, it's like smoke. There's nothing tangible. I can't hold on to it. The fact that Sandy is like, again, maybe I missed something in the edit, but I promise you, well, maybe I should go back and watch it, but it feels very weird. No, I will not be gaslit. No. This man drunk messaged and harassed her for days. This man showed up at the apartment and knocked on the door. This man berated her. I will not be gaslit. See how I do it? I almost did it. I will not do this. I will not be tricked. I will not be. Okay? No. I can't believe I just did it in real time. I was just like, I want to be compassionate. I want to be there. I want to meet people where they're at. But I swear to God, I will not be fucking sent a sob story once again by anybody, regardless of gender. Manipulators are manipulators regardless of gender, and there's manipulation happening. And there's a moral, ethical difference here. There are like value differences at play here. Now, I don't know how good of a person Sandy is. Maybe she's a horrible person. You know, who knows? Maybe they're both pro-Israel. I don't know anything about them, right? P.S. I found a video of me from 10 years ago that I forgot I made called Gaza. And I was like, what is this? And I clicked on it because it's in my private, bank of videos. And it's me ranting about how Palestinians are dying and Israel is so bad. And I'm like, this was 10 years ago. I had no memory of making this video. And I was like, why is the US backing Israel? I was like so confused. And I'm showing pictures of Palestinian people being destroyed. And I'm ranting about guys, 10 years ago, I have no memory of this, but I made this video apparently. Okay. All of this to say, free Palestine, but also all of this to say, okay, I struggle when I see toxic dynamics like this. Because I do think sometimes one person is actually trying to solve the problem and one person just isn't. And that person who's trying to solve the problem will end up taking on all of the responsibility at the end of the day because the other person's just not going to. And I speak from experience. I feel like every time my toxic partners and I would seek out advice, ask people for help, I was so trying and I just knew they weren't. And by the way, it's not like I know what happens to people in the future. Like I knew after our breakups, because we had mutuals where people ended up. And it was so clear to me, I'm sorry, my life got better and theirs didn't. And a part of me is like, okay, so it wasn't, I hate to say it, but it wasn't me. It was really important for me to know, is it me? Am I the problem? And am I dealing with this person I'm just not loving enough? And it's like, no, because even without me, their life went horrible. And if anything, when they were dating me, their life was better. And that's kind of crazy to think about because it was so crazy. So I think we need this data. And I think Sandy's life would get better if she got rid of Nick. I do. I think Nick makes Sandy's life objectively worse. And I think it's hard to see that. And I see Sandy taking so much responsibility, which is fine if she feels like she needs to. But I wish she would know what her life could look like without Nick in it. Because I think Nick's life is going to go downhill. I think this man's never going to be happy. And I think Sandy could be so happy. And I hate to say it like that, but I mean, it's so real where I never want to see anyone from my past go badly. But also when you're in a bad relationship and you've gaslit yourself into believing that you're a piece of shit and you're the reason the relationship is so bad. And then you find out oh my God, okay, I really know what's going on now. It's really freeing. And I would love to see Sandy be free from this blaming Sandy for Nick's crazy toxicity, which is, now what I'm curious about is he still dating that girl he said he was dating during the reunion? Because how would you watch this show and end up dating a Nick unless you were really empathetic? I mean, look at him. Look at this energy. Look at the energy in this man's face. It's negative, bro. Negative energy.
Is that there were some very deep wounds that we triggered in each other and weren't showing up for each other in specific ways. I wasn't holding space in certain ways. She wasn't holding space in certain ways. And we had conversations that I was hopeful to have to move forward. Unfortunately, at that point, the relationship had run its course. And I think that at the very least, I can look back and have I wouldn't say my heart is full that we had those conversations because I had to still deal with all the stuff before, but I am glad at the very least that if there was any reason for me to stay, it was to have those chats, which nobody sees. That's not in.
I mean, I get why you
we're
wanted
having
to
it now.
make it to the part where you could get back together with your girlfriend for sure.
Yeah.
I think a scene part that was very hard for me to watch was when you came to the door, banging on the door. And it was like you could hear a broken man who you've known for 2.5 years,
Right.
off and on. And it was, you sent JR to the door to answer it and to deal with it.
You heard a broken man she had been dating for 2 years. I heard toxic, dangerous man capable of killing me. So I'm sorry. Let's rewind that.
It was like you could hear a broken man who you've known for 2.5 years,
Right.
off and on. And it was, you sent JR to the door to answer it and to deal with it. Was that for any particular reason?
So
Because he's literally unhinged and dangerous. Oh my God, that's so funny. And they're not together, for the record. They're just friends in this interview. I'm going to sneeze. Oh my God.
So yeah, that is definitely that was a big night. And we're seeing most of none of it. And
Hold on. That is exactly the toxicity I'm saying. That's what Discord, I think, meant. The audacity of people to see that scene and just feel bad for Nick. You all need to go to fucking therapy. You toxic fucking You're so dangerous. Society is so dangerous for women. Society is so dangerous for women. This is why women, femme people, LGBT people, we are under threat from the fucking patriarchy. I cannot believe she just asked that fucking question. It was so hard for me to see you reject a man who was aggressive, toxic, and abusive towards you when all he wanted was a hug. Like, what? I'm changing the title of my video again. I keep changing it every 2 seconds. I'm changing it again. Sandy being gaslit.
What we're seeing is like, I mean, that's not exactly like how it went down.
I had a like of all the times I was having a hard time, that day was the hardest. So and I'm not like, I have to keep some privacy to my life, but something happened that day and it was not to do with our relationship. And it was a very, very heavy, like extremely, somebody in my life who I've known for 13 years and has been one of the closest people in my life did me this show is nothing compared to how, and I mean like.
And you wanted to talk about it with
and
Sandy? Or
I
you needed her?
had a bad reaction to that. I went out. I did run into Carly and Lori. And I was in a bad way. And I don't think Sandy quite understood the volume of what was going on because I wasn't communicating. I was drunk.
Yeah.
And I was upset. I was irate at somebody else. Like, and it unfortunately came through like I was, because she was already annoyed with me at that point about me continuing to reach out.
But it's not just like, I just want to make it clear. It's not just like, oh, he was reaching out to me, you guys. Like, oh, he was calling me and texting me. How dare I, like, how dare my boyfriend call me? It's not what it is. Trust me, because that is, if he ever needed me and he came to me in a conscious, healthy way, just like, babe, I need you. I need to talk. I would drop everything and go across the country to go get you. And you know that. That's not what was happening. And it's not what we see, but it is a continued pattern and cycle of whatever's going on in there affects his behavior out here. And then you mix in alcohol, whatever, and you're not in, it's not a healthy state of mind. Like, so what was happening that night, he was irate for a lot of different reasons. Me, I'm sure being one of them, just the whole experience and everything. Like the fact that I'm living with another man and he's by himself. I mean, that alone is like torturous.
The proximity
100%.
was also.
It was honestly ridiculous. That shouldn't have happened. We honestly probably should have just left.
Y'all were living above you.
Yeah,
right?
we were living above him, like very close corners.
I would imagine the point of the show is to trigger you guys.
Of course, and it triggered us to like the breaking point. You know what I mean?
Like that was a little.
It just was a lot, and
no one else was living in that close proximity.
We were in close corners.
I don't know how you sleep. So sleep deprivation. Emotional feelings, alcohol. I was not in a good mental place. I think that's pretty clear.
When did you know they were living above you?
Okay, hear me out. You could have stayed sober. You could have called a therapist. You could have done anything else other than what you did. Like that, and it's like, what, do you not watch any of the other seasons before you come on this show? Apparently not. These hosts are so frustrating to me. Everyone here is so toxic. Like the questions they are asking, this is what I'm saying when they haven't deconstructed. Sandy might not be a perfect person, but she's obviously at the end of the day, the best person sitting in this room compared to all the rest. And then she obviously, regardless of how the edit was done, was the person that was being berated, attacked, yelled at, demeaned. Like at the end of the day, she was doing the emotional labor for Nick and JR and everyone else. And it's just like bullshit.
So I walked out to do we do our interviews, and it was one of the nights where Mariah, it's funny because you see it on the edit as if I'm like trying to look into their door or something. And I walked out into the courtyard, looked up, and because we separated during that, Mariah and I were having a night where we were painting or doing something, and I walked out.
Also, it's kind of crazy to me that we really expect children to be more regulated than these fucking 40-year-old people. We literally expect children. You know how much children get beat by their abusive parents or shitty toxic parents that haven't deconstructed hitting their kids? Just because they have a tantrum, and these men are grown. These are grown people. I swear to God, we expect children to act better than grown-ups who throw tantrums, and I'm sick of it, bro. The amount of responsibility we put on kids is ridiculous. It's offensive.
So she could do her interview. I was walked out to the courtyard, sat down, I looked up, I saw JR, I was like, oh.
And you see me run inside because I didn't want him to have the visual of me and JR on the balcony together having dinner. I just didn't want him to have that visual. And I was like, there's no way that this is happening right now. So I ran inside because JR had told me that you were walking around. I just didn't want you to see us
And
together.
at that point, sounds like things you make up. Like at that
Right,
point,
right,
you're
right.
just
going
footsteps
in,
and time. It's like you
Yeah.
start to make up
Driving
things that
yourself insane.
are not true, and I don't believe are true because we've had some pretty definitive and honest conversations about that, and I think that I believe you and trust that those things did not occur. But I think that it felt that way very much. The volume of that was turned up full.
I don't care. I don't care about Nick at all. Discord says, if there's one great lesson of many that your content in this space has taught me, is that you can choose what you do in a real way. You can, truth, bros. If I can give you anything in your life, I give you the freedom to choose. If I could give you any tool, it's the freedom to be a different person, especially if you feel like you're a Nick. But you see, when people are on a journey, like, how do you get through to a Nick? How do you get through to a Nick? How do you even get Sandy to understand, like, girl, he's got you trapped, girl? I remember I've been there. Okay. And then you're not until you're ready. Like, not until you're ready can you see the truth. But once you pick up the tool to, like, be a different person, like, to be a good person, to be a person who makes different decisions, if it's truly like freedom, bro, that's what freedom is. Freedom is being able to make a choice and not feeling pushed into a corner because of circumstance, but being able to, almost like step out of it and make a decision. And you need the wisdom, the tools, and that's hard. It's hard to get, and you'll always be learning. But man, at a certain level, it's just so much easier, huh? Chet says, you don't get it, guys. He's just a 40-year-old baby. He's just a baby. You guys, I'm just a baby. That's Nick. He's just like, where's Nick's onesie, bro? Because I think he forgot it at home.
Full tilt in my head, and I was going to bed thinking about.
What were you hearing?
In my head, I was hearing that I do think
you were hearing footsteps. And here's the thing. I moved back into the apartment that he was living in, and you could hear
what Nick's saying, but I get it. I think what
okay, whatever.
The noises in itself are far more removed from, and this is also something that I feel like I need to address, is that they did have a very genuine connection. I don't think it
doesn't show, obviously. It looks like we're like not talking about anything.
You definitely look like you're into each other, for sure.
You guys are into each
So
other.
I wasn't like, that wasn't something I was just making up in my head, that it's like, she wasn't put off by him. She wasn't unattracted to him. They were leaning into each other from the jump, and you could see that from the start. So that's why the whole, like, when I found out that they kissed before they even moved in together, I'm like, well, if that's happening that fast, what's next? And now they're living above my head.
But it's like you would hear a bird tweet and be like, oh my God, that's them kissing, type of thing. Like, it was just every noise you heard, you just went to the worst possible idea of what it could be.
Yeah, I'm a creative person, so I can create
I think
things
anyone
that
in
are-
that situation would go
I mean,
insane.
totally.
I don't
Artist.
think.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I mean, that's
No, not every single one of us in that situation go crazy. Notice how nobody else went crazy? Notice how there were other couples? Notice that Mariah didn't go crazy. Notice that, no, I hate this idea of validating Nick's feelings. Anybody in that situation would punch her. She looked at you funny. Anyone in that situation would have raped her. I get it. Do you hear yourselves? Do you hear yourselves? No, no, no. No. Anyone in this situation would have harassed her. What are we talking about? No. I'm so sick of humans, bro. I'm so sick of you all. I'm so sick of the toxicity, bro. No. We are not the same. We are not the same. Thank you.
And that's something that I could not understand in the moment. Like, I look back and I'm just like, girl, like, come on. It's like so obvious. But I was
What's
so
obvious?
just like what Nick was going through, and just he was alone. I'm
No, Sandy.
with JR, and it's like me and JR are super flirty, and like I could see that. And in the moment I couldn't, because I was so wrapped up in my own experience and the things that were happening with me and Nick before the show, during the show, was like overpowering everything. It had nothing to do with JR, honestly, and it had everything to do with me and Nick. And that's what you're seeing the night that he comes to the apartment. And it's not me being like, first of all, JR is the one that literally was like, no, you stay back. I'm getting this door. Because Nick had been calling, like, I had been sobbing on the phone to Nick that night for hours. You see one thing and hang up. That's a very, very tail end. And that's not even exactly how it happened. That is after like countless conversations of me begging him, like, hey, please, I'm not in a space to talk right now. Like, and he was not in the space to talk either. He wasn't respecting that. And obviously, like,
Oh, what do you mean he wasn't?
he wasn't in a mental, physical state to talk. He was very intoxicated. Like,
Okay.
if somebody's calling you, like,
Yeah.
and it's like,
I gotcha.
you know how that's going to go down.
Sure.
I know because I've been down this road with him many times. I've seen him in that state many times before. And I've learned to just disengage when that's happening.
Oh my God. This is abuse 101. The fact that you get so fucked up that the only thing your loved one can do is disengage and get away from you. That's what I'm saying. To even create a situation where your loved one has to do that, instead of like, there's a difference between giving a loved one space. Like I say, being triggered isn't unethical. You can be triggered and be completely kind to people and ethical. Like you can be triggered and be a good person, right? I've been triggered plenty of times and never, resulted into being like a horrible person. I think this illusion that like when someone's triggered, they're always bad is not fucking true. Sometimes when people are triggered, they say things they don't mean, but there are a lot of times I've been triggered where I haven't hurt anybody, even myself, so I think we need to be very aware of that. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, this idea that, she knows his pattern. She's dealt with this so many times before. This is, and then the way they're dogpiling on her, the way they're making her take all of the responsibility. Like, look how much responsibility Sandy has taken in 32 minutes of this podcast. Where is Nick fully taking responsibility for anything? Where is the toxicity? Where is the abuse language? Where is anyone being like, hey, why are you even having this abuser on your show? Like, that's what's even crazier is like, they don't even see him as abusive because like the girl host said, I think anyone in that situation would have felt the same. No, that's just not true. And that's the problem. We are not the same. So y'all, when you feel bad about yourself and you think you're a horrible person, just remember, okay, there are really horrible people out there in the world and it's probably not you. It could be you, but it's probably not you. Because does Nick in any way give you any indication that he cares that he was a horrible person? Look at the way they don't even want to consider that they were horrible. The way we try so hard to be responsible for our actions with no reciprocity? How do you say that word? You know what I mean? On their end, it's bullshit.
Me engaging is not going to do us any good.
I don't think anybody is good when they drink. I don't think you've been your best self when you've drank. I don't think I'm your best.
No,
I think
100%.
It's like we also have to take ownership of both sides. And I think that's what we've been doing so we can be clear about this and clean. And I also think it's still very like truthful that I was going through watching something, actually not even watching it at that point, feeling. And that's what I was actually I was concerned because I thought that I was going to see the show and be like, wow, like you had nothing to worry about. And I don't think that's true. And I think that I did observe, especially from JR's side.
Hold on. I just want to say, though not all of us are our perfect selves when we're drunk, a lot of us do not become abusive when we're drunk. As my partner says, when I drink, I become a giggly mess on the couch and I become very goofy and very flirty. And I say, thank you, you're welcome. I don't drink very often, but when we first moved into this apartment a while ago, like over a year ago, I got a cider to celebrate and I was giggly, let me tell you. Yeah, I'm very giggly when I'm drunk and I just like, you know what I mean? It takes a half a cider and your girl is giggly, okay? So don't be blaming the alcohol out here. If you're going to blame the alcohol, I better hear that you're sober. And more than that, I better hear you say I'm still responsible. Okay?
Him genuinely feeling for her and care for her. And he seems to be, throughout it very protective of you and very much,
I think he knew what I was going through with you. Like he knew. I mean, of course, I was living with him. And so he would hear me like, he knew I was going through it. I would be like really upset. And so that I do think that he got kind of protective in a way, like in a weird way.
I guess, but why did he feel like it was his place?
That's not what I mean. He called you his wife.
Okay, that he's not being serious. I know that it seems that way, but like obviously I'm not his wife.
Well, obviously. I'm just saying.
What? Obviously, it's a part of the experiment. These people are so sensitive. If you're going to be this sensitive, why would you go on this experiment? Are you dumber than a box of crayons? Like, do you know what I'm saying? They're so stupid. How are you this stupid?
I don't think if we asked JR if he literally thought you were his wife, it was just more his attitude.
The attitude, of course.
In terms of like what he thought his place was.
Right.
Like, again, I just got to go back to, I imagine, what if Natalie and I did an experiment like this, where it's just like, and listen, I think the show is fascinating. I love how why I love the show so much is like most shows are exploring like individuals pursuing love as opposed to people in your shoes.
Right.
Who
And exactly. Chet says, why does he keep equating her level of toxicity with his, just like the reunion? I think this is why mutual abuse doesn't exist. And I got to remember that. You remember how we talked about mutually abusive relationships? See how they're not mutually abusive? It's not one-to-one. Sandy isn't abusive. She's engaging in toxicity, but she wasn't abusive to Nick. Nick was abusive to Sandy, though. That's what I'm seeing as the difference. I want to be clear from Brittany's perspective, Brittany's morals, Nick is abusive and Sandy at most engaged in toxicity. But other than that, like, she was not abusive to Nick. And so this idea, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't understand their issue with JR. I don't understand the issue with how he handled himself. He was on a fucking show where everybody was, even Scotty and Zaynab called each other wifey and stuff. What the fuck is your problem? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the fuck is anybody's problem on this show. If they don't, like, why don't you understand what you're signing up for?
Examine, like, you know, relationships very much like your guys' are. I mean, your guys' relationship seems to be like this poster board toxic relationship. And I even almost mean that in a compliment way. Like, we've all been part of these relationships. Watching you guys is like a window into like my past life. And like, I think anyone who's watching this, if you,
Right, after the reunion, Nick has some serious problems for sure. We get some context around some substance abuse issue, and Vanessa even made her own video
Sorry, I realized I was muted when I switched over. I just want to watch this really fast.
about the situation as well, so we'll cover everything. So Nick was super emotional when finding out about JR and Sandy's first kiss. I mean, that's fair, we know that, but we didn't get to see the
Hold on, I'm gonna go find this Vanessa video because I think we should watch it really fast. Hold on, give me a second.
if you look at not just your guys' relationship, but a lot of these relationships, I mean, it's very easy to see, if you're honest with yourself, moments of your own vulnerability in these relationships. But it's more like, again, to me, it comes down to like a respect in terms of, I could lean into an experiment, but you know, this is still my girlfriend going in, and for someone to jump in and assume a role, either, and I would believe either, because JR does seem a bit delusional, but either he's just assuming that's his role, or he.
Hello, what are these people on? Are these people for real right now? Are they literally for real? Okay, I'm annoyed with everybody. Let's find, this is Vanessa talking about her time with Nick. Let's just watch this really fast because everyone is pissing me off in this fucking interview. I don't know who JR thinks he is. He thinks he's a contestant on a show they all signed up for, dummy.
This is your pre-read before watching the reunion. I am spilling the tea on what really happened
Her audio is so low, so let's just like make sure it's up all the way on my end.
behind the scenes. I'll just keep this short and sweet. Whenever we were going through the dating week, we had a pretty solid friendship. And then moving in together, it was a total 180. Very first day that we were living together, he pulled me into, so the bedrooms don't have cameras or audio. He pulled me into the bedroom and he shared some things with me that made me super concerned and frankly just uncomfortable. He shared with me that he has substance abuse issues. I found out later through a birdie that he was still abusing while filming, which was very apparent to me. Also has issues with alcohol. That was also very apparent to me.
So basically, the show is running a safety risk of allowing people on the show that are abusing substances and that are like abusive. Like, you have to be very careful. Like, I'm telling you, someone's gonna die on one of these shows.
That was a pretty big deal. He also admitted that he omitted this information whenever he went through his psych evaluation, which is a big part of the process before you get on this type of experience. The morning that he found out about Sandy and JR's kiss, he started to spiral, understandably so. In that moment,
stop. Everyone, stop saying understandably so. Stop saying that. No, it is not understandable. I don't give a fuck if they fucking fucked each other in the pool, in public. It's not understandable. It's not. You're broken up. You didn't talk about boundaries. It was on the table. They were allowed to do things. No, it is not understandable for you to spiral. It is understandable if you called your therapist and in private spiraled in their office. It is not okay to spiral in public. It is not okay to take it on people. It is not okay to abuse substances because somebody did something. No.
and I wanted to show up as best as I could for him as a friend because I did feel for him. It was hard. I could see he was struggling. I was very much there for him, consoling him, providing a safe space for him to talk to me and cry on my shoulder. Later that afternoon, around 2 or 3, the camera crews came in. All the while, I had been supporting him for hours and hours. Immediately, he flips a switch and starts to spin up this fake story that I wasn't there for him earlier, and some weird bullshit that was simply not true. This pissed me off so much because, for obvious reason, it just felt like he was playing the victim card and trying to turn me into a villain for absolutely no reason. It was very much out of the blue and felt like an act to, I don't know, lean into some kind of character he wanted to be portrayed as on the show. I don't know why he did it, but it was really upsetting for me. That evening, he stayed in a hotel room. I didn't see him until later the next day. Came back from the grocery
Wait, did he stay in a hotel room so he could go abuse drugs without her knowing or the cameras seeing?
store. He was already in the parking deck whenever I got back and reeked of alcohol. Make our way up to the apartment, and he had cocktails made for us, a disco ball going, and EDM music blasting on like a Tuesday. Would have been down to, you know, go do something afterwards had we been on good terms, but we were not on good terms. So this extreme opposite of what I had just experienced the night before was really odd. I asked him why he was putting on this show and facade, and he was literally just so out of touch with reality and was like, I just thought we could have a dance party. But this is after the previous day where he had just spun up this whole fake situation and made me seem like a villain. That's a very small part of what was going on that viewers didn't get to see, paired with the substance abuse issues and a lot of behavior that I can only best describe as manic. That's my truth. That's what happened. So I'm not speculating on anything. These are just the facts and what happened.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, obviously he was probably, I wonder if he was like manically on coke. You know, manically, somebody said he had used coke. I don't know if that's in this interview or if that has been publicly acknowledged, but people were saying it in the comment sections. But I don't know if I assume he said something about it because, you know, or maybe people were guessing. But, you know, it's weird because I come from such a healthy drug bubble where people really like were so responsible with drug use that for the most part, you know, it's weird when I'm in another bubble where people have really bad relationships with drugs. And I'm like, ooh, like it's like alcohol. If you're in a responsible group of people who drink, it feels weird to realize like people are having a really bad experience with it. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like these, like at the end of the day, women and men are strong. People are strong. All categories of people are strong. Some men are strong. Some women are strong. Like gender doesn't even matter in terms of strength. But if you put two people, that's why Nick was afraid of JR, because JR was stronger than Nick. Like at the end of the day, regardless of gender, if you've got one person who's more strong and one person who's less strong, it's going to be intimidating to be with the more strong person unless that person's protecting you, right? Now, chat felt like their reactions to JR in this podcast were twofold. One, apparently JR refused to be on this podcast because he found them to be slanderous, noted. And two, some of you feel like maybe they're being kind of like anti-Black because the way they're painting JR, because the edit, I felt like show JR, yes, as an F-boy, but also he was the least problematic out of all of the men. So that's sort of interesting. I mean, the men who stayed. I mean, Scotty, Caleb, I guess Caleb was the least problematic, probably. But Caleb did full on lie about not having feelings versus JR didn't. So, you know, Chad says emergency stream indeed, guys, indeed. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. Either way, when you have a stronger person with a less stronger person, it's going to feel scary. And then you have him being manic and doing this. And Vanessa seems so like her homeschool energy was coming out. She's probably like, I'm not going to do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, absolutely not. Chet says, I think Caleb was in denial. Absolutely. After their reunion, he basically said so, right? Okay, I'm going to press play. I'm going to walk away for a second and then I'm going to come back. So put in chat what happens when I'm going to be gone for like 2 seconds. Tell me what happens.
He feels like he's gotten permission to play that role.
I get it. And I think with there was disrespect I mean, there was disrespect on my end, just not like comprehending the whole situation in itself and being like, okay, wait a minute, like, no, like that's my real life boyfriend. Like, this is like kind of, this is a trial marriage. You know what I mean? Like, there are certain things that like don't talk to him that way. In terms of the night that he came to the apartment, though, it is very different. I do want to like say that it was like things kept happening. And I think JR had just seen me so like broken down and upset over it that he was trying to step in. But I don't know. It was a very weird
Like,
thing.
why didn't JR at any point just be like, just go talk to your guy? You know, like,
Well,
this is
what
getting
had
weird. You know,
happened
it's like-
was Nick had told me like I'm coming to the apartment, and I was like, no, you're not. Like, you will not come to this apartment right now. I don't want to talk to you. This is not a healthy dynamic. You're not in the right mental, physical, or emotional state that this is not going to go well if we talk. And he came to the door, and JR was like, you're staying back there. I'm going to the door because JR was pissed because he lives there. And I was like, this is not actually happening right now. That's why I'm like so uncomfortable laughing because I'm like, this is not real life right now. There's no way that like these men are about to go at it. And I'm like,
I get the discomfort.
it was so uncomfortable. And I have a really bad nervous laugh, like really bad, you guys. I always got in
Yeah,
trouble
I
growing
would
up.
agree with that. And that can be very difficult in
It's
serious
horrible.
situations.
It's horrible. And there was nothing funny about that, by the way, like nothing. I was crying
I-
2 seconds before that. And then I was more of like JR being like, no, you stand back. And like, he like ran to the door. I was like, this is not happening, you know? But I just think that there was a lack of respect, and knowing what I know now in that moment, like I would have dropped everything and been there for him 100% because we're not in a normal situation. This isn't just like, oh, you know, he's having a breakdown, like, and we're back at home and after the bar. It's like, this was different and he really needed me in that moment. I didn't show up for him. And that really hurts me because I've showed up for you so much throughout our relationship. Like, I really have. And like, that sucks, you know? That's like, it's really difficult to watch, honestly.
I think you said in that moment that you felt violated and that it was so unfair to you. Why did you feel violated?
From the things that were happening off camera.
What did I miss? 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 Oh, chat. Did she ask a stupid question?
Fair to you. Why? I think you said,
Sucks, you know? That's
Hold
like,
on. I rewound it.
it's really difficult to watch, honestly.
I think you said in that moment that you felt violated and that it was so unfair to you. Why did you feel violated?
From the things that were happening off camera. And if we want to talk about it, like, but there was a lot that you guys are not seeing in the relationship
How was it not enough what we saw? It was enough, Sandy. Don't let them gaslight you.
and what was going
I
on.
was trying to get her out of there. I was trying to use everything I could to, you know,
But you weren't
Shoot.
just like, it wasn't just like, we need to get the fuck out of here. Look, it was very unhealthy in terms of the
Mhm.
communication and what was going on.
I should have loved myself enough in those moments to just leave. And
Okay.
honestly,
I should have loved myself enough in that moment. I should have loved myself enough in that moment.
like, I think that I let the, you know, the more emotional, hopeful, romantic, whatever part get the best of me. And I think that I was.
I hate abuse. Man, abusers are the worst. Abusers are the worst. The way they spin this narrative. This is what I'm trying to say, girl, leave. I don't care if it's your brother, your father, your cousin, your homie. We're done. 2025, we're done. I don't give a fuck if we shared a womb. We're done. With peace and love, I'm done. And this is what I mean to say, like, there are people in our lives, even if it's not romantic, and this is a toxic friendship dynamic. You know? Wait, Chet says, I think you should go back in here. Guys, you don't mind? Should I really rewind it? Damn, I thought you guys, okay. Should I rewind it? You guys are saying that. Yeah? Hold on, how much did I miss? Just a couple minutes, right?
And
That you felt violated and
Hold on.
Moments of your own vulnerability in the
feeling for her and care for her. Very
there was disrespect on
I didn't even know where I left off, though. Where did I leave off? Oh, shoot.
my end, just not like comprehending the whole situation in itself and being like, okay, wait a minute, like, no, like that's my real life boyfriend. Like, this is like kind of, this is a
Okay, around here.
trial marriage. You know what I mean? Like, there are certain things that like don't talk to him that way. In terms of the night that he came to the apartment, though, it is very different. I do want to like say that it was like things kept happening. And I think JR had just seen me so like broken down and upset over it that he was trying to step in. But I don't know. It was a very weird
like,
thing.
why didn't JR at any point just be like, just go talk to your guy? You know, like, this
Well,
is
what
getting
had
weird. You know,
happened
it's like-
was Nick had told me like I'm coming to the apartment, and I was like, no, you're not. Like, you will not come to this apartment right now. I don't want to talk to you. This is not a healthy dynamic. You're not in the right mental, physical, or emotional state that this is not going to go well if we talk. And he came to the door, and JR was like, you're staying back there. I'm going to the door because JR was pissed because he lives there. And I was like, this is not actually happening right now. That's why I'm like so uncomfortable laughing because I'm like, this is not real life right now. There's no way that like these men are about to go at it. And I'm like,
I get the discomfort.
it was so
Yeah, no one's talking about domestic violence. Like, no one is mentioning the statistical probability of domestic violence, of exhibiting any physical threat to her. Like, that's the part that I'm so confused on. We are so spoiled in our little progressive bubbles that all of us take that into account. Isn't that amazing? Aren't the bubbles amazing? How if any of us were there, we're like angry, drunk, intoxicated man slamming on door, violating consent. Yeah, no, you can't go talk to him. He could hurt you. The idea that this host is like, why didn't you just go talk to him? And I'm like, this is why women end up dead at the hands of men. Because you just so casually ask her to walk into literally the lion's den. And you're like, why did you do that? You know what I mean? People will say, why did you stay with him in the relationship if he was so abusive? And then they'll say like, I can't believe you didn't go talk to him and comfort him. Well, he was abusing you. It's like, make a decision.
uncomfortable. And I have a really bad nervous laugh, like really bad, you guys. I always got in trouble
I
growing
would
up.
agree with that. And that can be very difficult in
It's
serious
horrible.
situations.
It's horrible. And there was nothing funny about that, by the way, like nothing. I was crying 2 seconds before that. And then I was more of like JR being like, no, you stand back. And like, he like ran to the door. I was like, this is not happening, you know? But I just think that there was a lack of respect, and knowing what I know now in that moment, like I would have dropped everything and been there for him 100%.
No, this is the bullshit where she is being gaslit into being, God, get out, Sandy. My heart hurts for everyone in this situation, regardless of gender, because like women can weaponize tears too. It doesn't matter. Gender doesn't matter, guys. People weaponize sadness and tears. People will weaponize and hello. I'm getting over it. I'm just, oh my God. I wish I could save everybody from these situations. Stop doing it to yourselves. I hope, you know what? I said earlier in this stream, I don't want these people to watch my streams because we're just using their life to get better. But I hope Sandy sees this and I hope she gets out. I hope she reads my title and goes, oh my God, am I being gaslit? You're being gaslit, Sandy. Get out. Get out.
Because we're not in a normal situation. This isn't just like, oh, you know, he's having a breakdown, like, and we're back at home and after the bar. It's like, this was different and he really needed me in that moment. I didn't show up for him. And that really hurts me because I've showed up for you so much throughout our relationship. Like I really have. And like, that sucks, you know, that's like, it's really difficult to watch, honestly.
I think you said in that moment that you felt violated and that it was so unfair to you. Why did you feel violated?
From the things that were happening off camera. And if we want to talk about it, like, but there was a lot that you guys are not seeing in the relationship and what was going on.
I was trying to get her out of there. I was trying to use everything I could to,
But you weren't just like, it wasn't just like, we need to get the fuck out of here. It was very unhealthy in terms of the communication and what was going on.
I should have loved myself enough in those moments to just leave. And honestly, like, I think that I let the more emotional, hopeful, romantic, whatever part get the best of me. And I think that I agreed to do this. Like I agreed to do this, and I do have to take ownership of that. I also went through something, that I honor that Mariah was able to stay stable and sane through it. It being there on my own and feeling the feelings that I was feeling, I wasn't treating myself with the kind of mental clarity and health that I needed to, that I'm, working on now. And I do think that Sandy and I are good mirrors for each other to evolve through separate relationships. And as you said, with the toxicity to it, there was a dynamic in the relationship prior to that. As I said, when we started, she was a very push-pull with me and kind of like wanted me when she wanted me, but then wanted to do her own thing. And I finally set a boundary around that, but then I gave into the boundary, and it ignited this part of us that was a lot of fun and a lot of, we had an incredible physical chemistry, and we always had a hell of a lot of laughs together, but we weren't serving each other in that safe place that clearly I was needing in that time.
So I'm curious. I'm going to describe to you my perception of your guys' relationship.
You know what? Hold on. Chet says, I don't know if you guys know the saying, hurt people hurt people. Why don't we not do that anymore and not have that be the standard? Hurt people was meant to empathize with trauma victims and how they repeat cycles of abuse, possibly sometimes. And we need to recognize that, like a bully or a damaged human. But the reality is that regardless of you being in pain, you really can't take it out on other people. But this is the scariest part, guys. I need you to understand this. When you are holding yourself accountable, you only should hold yourself accountable for really what's your responsibility. But toxic people will try to hold you accountable for their bad habits. So one of the things that I've noticed is, and one of the reasons why you have to cut off people from your life is when you're trying to own up to something you did, There's a conversation I still have up on my channel where I talk about how that rape conversation with Debate Bro got me fucking triggered because he was victim blaming and it was pissing me off. And I apologized for that. Okay. But then there's this follow-up stream that I forgot existed until someone recently commented on it. And I've been thinking about taking it down, but I am so annoyed with myself at how hard I try to right my wrongs. Well, now in hindsight, I'm realizing I'm being manipulated by him. And it's such a frustrating listen. And I didn't listen to it all the way. I couldn't handle how fucking manipulative he sounds now that I'm aware of all his abuse, you know, that he's done to other people. But I'm trying so hard in that conversation to empathize with him and to humanize him. And I'm holding myself accountable. I'm like, I was wrong. I was so mean to you. I shouldn't have done that to you. And everyone's like, yeah, you shouldn't have hurt him the way you hurt him. And I was like, yeah, I should have been kinder, without ever realizing behind the scenes, he's consistently violating people's consent, abusing people, manipulating people. And then now in hindsight, I'm like, there I was once again, trying to be compassionate, to hold myself accountable, to own what I did was wrong, without understanding that these manipulative, toxic, abusive people are sitting there 4D chessing you and like making you feel guilty that you were, as a rape victim, devastated by the way they were talking about rape, right? And then they make you feel bad about the way that you were like, hey, I think you're making it sound like people, you know, all of this to say, that's the thing I'm trying to warn people against, because I fall for it too, where I sit here and I want to be accountable. I want to hold myself accountable. And then I realize, like, wait, we are not doing the same thing. Like, we are not doing the same thing in terms of accountability, because behind closed doors, I'm getting better. And behind closed doors, you're violating people's consent. What are we talking about here? Like, the whole point of being good in public is to be good in private. And if you're only good in public but bad in private, like, it's not working. You know, you're not doing the good thing. And so, like, yeah, Ches is bullshitter, bro. Bullshitters. Crazy. You know? It's just, I don't know. It's such a hard flag to look for. It can be very hard because you want to believe people at face value. And look, you're not at fault for believing people or believing a lie, but damn, like, don't be surprised when it happens, because Nick's exists. Look at these people all convincing Sandy she needs to take responsibility for Nick's abuse. That's crazy, dude. All these people are destructive and toxic. What a toxic narrative that victims of abuse need to take responsibility for how they contributed to their own abuse. You need to take responsibility, not for any of the abuse, but for the relationship you have with yourself, to love yourself enough to get healthy and not be around these people. But it has nothing to do with you being abused. That is 100% them. It's bullshit.
Based off the show we watched, and I'm curious what parts of it you think are accurate.
Yeah.
This is my perception
Okay,
of your relationship. The show portrays you guys as if throughout the season, it's like you're constantly giving Nick notes on how he's supposed to do this and how he's supposed to do this. And like Nick is constantly apologizing to you for what feels like some things may be valid. Some things it's just like, it almost felt like Nick was apologizing because he's like, I think I'm just supposed to apologize. I don't fuck.
Did we watch the same show? Did we even watch the same fucking show? What? What is happening? What is happening? Guys, is it because I came through on a progressive feminist lens? I need to watch I haven't watched anyone else review this show. Did somebody else review this show and review it differently? Because, like, maybe because I'm watching it from a progressive lens, like, I'm like, what is this bullshit? What is this fucking misogyny? What is this? Like, what is this abuse? You know what I mean? Are some people watching this show and literally thinking Nick is 100% the victim? Oh my God. Whoa.
Fucking no. But I love this girl. And that's kind of how, that's the vibe that the show portrays you guys in.
I understand that vibe, but I think that
It's so interesting.
What people don't see is that I was absent moving into this. I wasn't checking
What
in
do you
with
mean
her.
by
like, I was
absent?
just in my own, I was
like literally absent.
Like
Like he wouldn't call me, he wouldn't text me unless we were together, even when we were together.
So you just flat out ignoring her?
He couldn't.
I wouldn't say ignoring.
He wasn't present with me, you guys.
Yeah.
Like I spent more time with my best friend and her boyfriend.
Paint the
than
picture for me,
with
because like
him.
I can be very aloof and I can
Okay,
be very
yeah.
distant, and then I can be on a couch, and I can be like Nick, and like
Yeah.
Nick, and like I don't
Yeah.
hear her. But
Yeah.
eventually now is
Right.
like, bro. But then there's like we know couples where like some people literally like are ignore their partners and are checking out. Like
No, it wasn't ever like I knew it was never. Well, actually, I didn't know if it was intentional or not. I just was like, do you? I felt like he was pushing me to break up with him because he was not around, and I think he just was in his own head going through his own things. So it was just naturally like there was kind of a disconnect. But I'm very much like I need somebody in front of me. I'm really big on quality time. I'm big on physical touch. It was like he wasn't physically with me. Like he would go sleep on the couch for like just because he like needs to move around a lot, you know. And I'm like. Or we
It's
would
true. I
we would
mean-
do things like with our friends, and he would never like he could never make it. He never want to come, so I'd be with my best friend.
Wow. So they live like two different lives. This is like, it's hard if you're living like two different lives and you're not participating in each other's life. But the audacity from Nick, man, the audacity.
Her boyfriend, and I'm like, where's my boyfriend? You know, so it was actually kind of like an absent boyfriend thing. But
did you think you'd survive the show?
I don't know. I honestly like I do think that we were at a really rocky point in our relationship, and I was like kind of wanting to just give it my all. And that's what happened with me going into the experience with JR, whatnot. A lot of stuff happened like that we don't see with Nick and I. And I almost wanted to just like leave the whole experience. And I was like, I owe it to my relationship to give it my all and be with him. And the thing is, it's like,
We wanted different
It's-
things. We just wanted different things. I mean, when it comes down to it, we went to Europe the month before we knew we were going to get on the show. I had a friend's wedding that came up. She came with me. She wanted to go to Mykonos. This is something I have to own. Like I'm really bad at making choices in the moment. I'm not a good planner. I get that. I go.
Does he have ADHD too? I'm getting ADHD vibes. I'm getting ADHD vibes with like trauma looped in, with like I'm an artist, but also I can't take accountability for anything. But also I'm getting ADHD vibes.
Kind of like off the cuff. I definitely fly by the seat of my pants. Like if I'm going to paint, I want to paint all night. Sometimes that takes 2 nights. Sometimes I'm not there during the day. And that is who I am. Like I have to own that. And that can feel very shitty for a partner. I'm sure. I don't have the same love
Okay, buddy.
language as she has. And you know, I was trying to work on the physical touch aspect and get there because it just is not something I naturally do. I think the other type of physical touch for us was intense and wonderful, but I'm just day to day, you know, hand holding and things. I somehow just haven't, I never developed that. I never developed that sort of, I guess, rhythm to how I show up. And
What?
Yeah.
she wanted to go to Mykonos, which was after that. I felt like Mykonos was too much, overwhelming, but I agreed to it reluctantly, which I shouldn't have done. And then I put her in a state of limbo where basically I knew in my gut that I didn't want to go. But instead of just me being assertive and saying, I don't want to do that and we're not doing that, and if you want to do that, go,
You decided to go and be a baby?
I didn't go.
no,
Oh.
it's I mean, that's just a whole thing in itself. But that was
Why did he just bring up that story? He's so ADHD, bro. Get this man meds that have nothing to do with his addiction. This is crazy, bro. I saw a thing where RFK Jr. was like antidepressants and ADHD meds are very addictive. And then the whole comment section was like, oh, yes, the medication I literally forget to take on a daily basis. I was like, oh, yes, the medication that I have to double check with my partner every day. Like, did you take your meds? Like, okay, sure, buddy. Like, that's what's so funny about people with ADHD. Even me, I'm like, give me my meds, bro. Give me my meds. ADHD is life-saving meds. Like, let's be so fucking for real right now. I'm so sick of people like, okay, yeah, like the same medication we all have to double check we've taken. Dude, if I get an ADHD medication, I hope you know that I'm not going to remember to take it. Like, I'm going to have to remember to take it. The idea that this is, I don't know, it's all bullshit. I hate it all. I hate it all, the lack of education. It's just so ridiculous, bro. I don't know. All of this is silly. Chet says my mother and brother both stopped taking their meds because of how they hated how they made them feel. Did they make them feel functional? A lot of ADHDers are like, I don't want to take my meds. It's going to take away my spark. What spark? The spark where you can't get anything done? If you don't like the way your meds feel, get different meds. But for real, if you cannot do it without medication, meds can be life-saving for a lot of people. You know, like, I just think this, like the audacity that we're willing to say throughout life, like this dip, like you're not functional. You have to be more functional. And the idea that like you don't feel like yourself is like a fine narrative, but like how do you know that's even who you are? How do you know that's your real self? Like what does real self even mean? That's what the conversation about this all is. Are these drugs bringing us closer to actually our real selves? Or are they not? Because I know a lot of people I'm not saying your family is like this, but I know a lot of people who won't take their meds because they feel like it's not their real self. Well, your real self is an asshole. So figure it the fuck out. Your real self is unreliable. Your real self can't figure out how to shower. So let's figure it out, bros. Okay? I don't know. With peace and love, I feel like sometimes people, I don't know who your real self is, to be honest, but you better figure it out. Because if your real self is Nick, you know what I mean? I don't know, girls. Anyways, all of this to say, I don't know why he brought up that story or what that has to do with anything. Bro goes on tangents.
That was literally like the week before we left for the ultimatum. I mean, we came out and it was like one of our biggest fights, and it was just this whole thing. I'm like in Europe by myself with like my friend.
So
and
you
her
left
boyfriend.
her.
She wasn't by herself. She was
But
with
with
her
my
best.
friend and her boyfriend. But it's like I
Women
went
did not leave her
there
by
because
herself.
I wanted to be with you. We went to a wedding. Doesn't matter. I don't think that this is like that important, but that was
Well, I mean, you guys are on the same page. There is that.
yeah,
I
no,
think
no.
that's where it comes down to. Is I
So I guess my question for you is, like,
Well, it
listen,
was really important to me. I just didn't know if it's like we
I thought it
wanna
was
talk
important for
about
you
it
to
right
stay with
in
me.
your next relationship, there will. I mean, Natalie is a bit younger than me,
Mhm.
right? And so when we got together, we obviously got together because there was a physical attraction, and then we were compatible. We enjoyed hanging out. When we finally were like, let's do this and date, there was an acknowledgement of our age difference. There was an acknowledgement of ways in which maybe we're not as compatible as we wanted to be. And then there was like a willingness, at least a recognition on both of our parts, but at least I'll just speak for me as a guy who was like, I'm about to date someone who is going to want to and has the right to want to do things I've already done, is going to want to go to places I may not want to go or that I've already been. And
Oh, see, this is why age gap relationships don't make sense to me. This is why I hate hearing older people talk about their relationships with young people. They infantilize them. Like, oh, that's so sweet. You're like living out your 20s. You get to experience life, but I've already done it because I'm old. Why are you dating this person? Why are you dating a person who's so young they still have to have their party days? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, you might as, what are you doing? That's the stuff that I don't understand about your age gap relationships. Why would you date somebody who's not your peer? Why would you date someone that's on the same page as you? What are you getting out of the relationship by babysitting? Make it make sense. And I hate it. I hate these people that are like, I don't know why you think my relationship is so toxic because of the way you talk about your partner. You cannot tell me this is your partner. This is somebody you respect as an equal and then infantilize them when you're like, isn't it cute? They're going out to the bars because they're living their 20s. No, it's not cute. I am not amused.
I can't just not show up, and I can't just say, go do that. I don't feel like doing it. If I want to be with this person, I have to meet her where she is, and she's going to have to meet me where I'm at.
Yes. Meet her in history class because she's basically in high school. What are we talking about here?
And I'm just curious, like, as you look back on your relationship with Sandy, like, what changes have you made in that department? Because your next girl, are you still dating that girl, whoever you were dating at the reunion? I'm sure that at some point she's going to want to do something you don't want to do.
We're
and no,
far
yeah.
more on the same page. for
I'm not.
things. But
I'm
yes,
not. I'm
I
just
agree.
talking about when you're not, because
Yes.
as compatible as Natalie and I are, there's always going to be moments where we're disconnected, or she
Right.
wants to do something where I don't want to do, and like it's easy to make a relationship work when you guys agree.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah.
it's when.
Well, that's kind of the point of high compatibility, y'all. Relationships are so easy when you agree. That's why I want you to end up with your high compatibility partner. Yes. 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 Just like he said, but he didn't internalize it because he's stupid. Okay? He didn't internalize it. Relationships are easy when you agree. Wow. You know what I'm saying, girl? Marry your high compatibility partner, and marriage will be the easiest fucking thing you ever did. Marriage isn't hard. Life is hard. Okay? And let me tell you, even in my high compatibility relationship, the few things that like I want to do that my partner doesn't want to do are things that are so unimportant. They are so unimportant that I can either do them by myself and be perfectly happy, do them with his mother, which would be just as fun, or he will go out with me and do them anyways. And by the way, they're so unimportant. Like, they're not even important. That's why it doesn't matter. Because it's like, hey, do you want to do that thing? It's like, not really. And it's like, I think I kind of want to do that thing maybe. I'll just go with your mom. You know what I'm saying? I'll just go with your mom just to say I did it, I guess, or like just to have that experience. It's like, or I can go with him if he feels like it. But it's unimportant. It's not like it's life changing or like gonna, you know what I mean? It's just so silly. Like the way these people know, they say the things out loud, but they don't internalize it. Yes, relationships are easier when you agree. Who would have thought?
A
Right, it's
couple doesn't
compromising,
agree,
yeah.
and that happens for any couple. I don't care how
course.
compatible or how connected
Yeah.
you are. At some point, there's moments of disconnection, and how you work through that is kind of how
Right.
any relationship makes it or
Yeah.
breaks it. So
I think there were
Chad says, is that thing the Wicked movie in musicals? Yes, good example. I asked my partner, I was like, do you want to sit in a 3-hour movie with me where it's a musical? And he's like, ugh, not really. And I was like, can I ask your mom? He's like, yeah, dude, take my mom. I was like, dope. And so we asked my mother-in-law, I was like, come with me to this movie. She's like, oh my God. And it was so great because I was like, I knew he didn't want to see it. I knew he didn't want to do it. You know, he's not much of a theater person in general. Like both of us, like, you know what I mean? So I was like, do you want to do this? And I didn't, you know what I mean? Exactly a good example. Like, it's not going to impact our marriage if he doesn't come to the movies with me. You know what I mean? It's not going to change our marriage dynamic. If I go once a year to the movie and he doesn't go with me, I can go with his mom. But it's like, you know, they're talking like these things are like important. Like she's 25 and she really wants to experience something. So I have to go with her. And it's like, listen, I didn't work this hard to be this independent, not to do what I want every day. Okay. So other than adult responsibilities, I don't really want my partner to do something they don't want to do. And I don't want to do anything I don't want to do. So if my partner doesn't want to do it, I do it alone or I do it with his mom. And I think that's good. I think that's a good compromise because it's not, doesn't matter. You know, like I don't play D&D. I don't want to play D&D. Okay. I like that he plays D&D. I don't want to play D&D. Okay. I don't play video games. I don't want to play video games. Don't make me play video games except for Smash. I'll play Smash. It's like, I don't want to do these things. I did not work this hard to be independent, to be forced to do things I don't want to do. You know what I mean? I don't live with my parents anymore. So it feels like weird to talk about your marriage or your relationship is like, you got to do things you don't want to do sometimes. Like what? Like what? You know? Okay, chat, relax, chat. Correction, you'll lose at Smash. Okay. Listen, okay? Listen. I don't want to talk about it.
other factors like involved that made it really difficult to be on the same page or make certain decisions. And I think that's just kind of what, I mean, that was for Europe. That was a big break. And it's not just about lifestyle decisions or Mykonos or whatnot. Like, who gives a fuck, honestly? It's more about the behavior and like how you're showing up versus how you're not showing up. And that's just kind of
we
around
kind
the
of like, we
communication.
had this weird, I don't want to say role reversal, but I would say that I was far less, like my volume was far lower when it came to, you know, I remember you making a comment at some point, like, is there anything that upsets you? Like, and I think that I was, it wasn't that I wasn't upset. I hadn't gotten to that point where I felt like, I don't know, I didn't feel angry and I didn't feel that it was serving me. In our relationship, there was a lot of frustration that Sandy didn't feel like she was getting from me, like the emotions and the volume of whatever she was desiring. And I think that Sandy is a fiery person. She's got a lot of like passion and artistry in her own way through life. And I think that just comes down to the fact that like we communicated poorly. When I wanted, she didn't. When she did, I didn't. And we kind of reverberated this really deep connection through how much we love each other as people, but continuing to kind of see that like this probably isn't going to be a forever thing.
Mhm.
And I was hopeful that was going to shift. And honestly, when this came up, I was like, let's put ourselves in a scenario that really shakes things up and let's see if we can break through this together and find like a new road together. And it just, you know, I think everyone saw that it went the other direction. That doesn't mean that I need to, you know, I resonate in that negativity anymore. I forgive. We've had like plenty of conversations. I want her to be happy. I hope that she ends up with somebody that she feels, you know, follows the spirit and the goals that she wants in her life. And I think that it's been a really challenging test, but I will say through my process after the show and everything that I've done, she has been immensely supportive because I recognize that I was using alcohol and coping through.
Chad says this might sound too mean, but it felt like Nick's art was basic and he made being an artist his whole personality. Listen, there's a part of the original edit I made that I edited out, or maybe I kept something in there where I was like, I'm trying to be better. I'm trying not to go for people. And it was his art. I had this whole rant where I was like, this is his art. This is the kind of artist he is. No, Brittany. Listen, I don't want to judge because everyone's, you know, art is art is art. Who cares? As long as you have an audience for it, I don't give fucks, right? Like, I literally don't give fucks. I'm a YouTuber. Some people think I make trash YouTube videos. I get it, but I make a living off of it. I love it. I think I'm great at it. You know, I think you think I'm great at it. Maybe that's why you watch me. I get it. Not everybody's cup of tea, but let me tell you this. Nick is that guy though. He is that guy who's just like, I'm an artist and I'm like, I have turmoil and like I have to hurt people to really make good art. And I'm like, okay, relax. Remember when he said in the reunion, he's like, well, I'm an artist. That's what you get. I'm an artist, you know? And so like, okay, bro, cool. Like, cool, bro. Being an artist means you get to abuse people to make art. Like, relax. Okay.
Numbing skills that were not healthy. And so I did go to check in and see, you know, what I could do for myself to change that behavior.
Chat says, why are they doing a podcast together? Now, I don't know if this is one of those, but technically they are contracted to do follow-up interviews with a bunch of people to promote the show. So I don't know if this is one of those contracted interviews or if this is their personal desire to go on these podcasts together to boost their social media presence. I don't know if this interview, I don't know if they're doing an interview tour to clear up their reputations. I don't know why they're doing this interview, but I do know that from my understanding, they have to do X amount of interviews after on behalf of the show, I think, but I don't know because a lot of these people do go on these shows to boost their social media.
Because I never recognized it as something that I really needed to get help with. And it's been hard. You know, it's something that is so socially accepted, especially on the shows like these where everybody's having a drink and people are, you know, moving it around like it's everywhere. And it's really hard to take a step back from yourself, especially when you're feeling like shit and look at that pattern. And I think that the one thing I will say is no matter what my frustrations were with her, with the show, with the breakup, she was always consistently supportive with me and me, you know, getting to a better place.
There's a lot of decisions you have to make when you have a baby. And the one that I
Diapers? Who watches this podcast? I guess moms and dads might.
There are 1 2 causes of rash by managing moisture and runny mess. Pull Up Skin Essentials has
Wow, Huggies.com.
about you can grow later. And for any that you don't want, Rocket Money Accounts Plus, you can easily create exactly skin or
Wow,
what you're looking
amazing.
for. Rocket Money has over 5 million.
Rocket Money.
Just set today. Do you have any regrets on how you handled JR?
No, I don't care about it. I mean, JR's like JR. If I was JR, I'd be into her too.
I don't think he handled JR in any wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, I apologize.
I was just more like I wouldn't have
you mean
apologized
was
to him.
too over? Yeah.
I would have
Well, you
pushed
didn't get-
back a little bit more.
Yeah, they didn't get the whole time.
Push back on what? Why? Why are these guys so aggressive? Okay.
I mean, there was definitely,
Okay.
I'm sorry for showing up, but dude, what the fuck are you talking about? This is my girlfriend.
Yeah, I was
And
just
in
more like
fact-
you seemed
in
way
fact,
too okay with him.
Scotty, which I wasn't. And I also was at
Which
the
that
point.
was just weird.
That wasn't. I was not okay.
Weird.
And I also walked into Scotty and JR having a conversation about Sandy that wasn't about me. And I was just like, okay, like, I'm not sure at what point. And I felt like I was living in a kaleidoscope at that point. Like this is my person. This is the person that I came to the show with. She's the person I know the best. And people are having conversations with her and about her as if they are involved with her more than I am. And that was, you know, at that point, Caleb and I, you know, Caleb stepped in. I said, I got this. Like, and that's when I kind of started to go towards JR and say, well, listen, I know that Sandy's telling me something. Why don't you tell me what's going on? Why don't you tell me the truth? If this is something that I need to be worried about, or I'm just making this all up in my fucking head and I'm losing it for nothing, like, come correct. And also, what's your stance and what are you going through with Zaina? Because
Okay, but isn't Sandy allowed to leave with JR? I think it's the idea that you went on an ultimatum show in which they either leave with their new partners or not. So where do you get off thinking you're entitled to say she's not allowed to be with JR? That's why I'm fucking confused over everyone's reaction right now. 3 options: leave single, leave with your original partner, leave with your new partner. So if leaving with your new partner was an option, then she's not your girl. She's not your girl in this experiment now. So why is Nick acting like this is the worst thing that could ever happen when it's literally one of the 3 allowed options? That's the whole point of the show. That's the bullshit. Why are they letting Sandy be gaslit through this? And is it because she never actually intended to ever leave Nick for somebody else? But like, people have done that on the ultimatum. It's not like that's never happened before. So it feels really weird. At least I think, right? Like I've seen all of the seasons, but at the same time, like, it's gotta be. There's gotta be somebody who's done it. Yeah. In the Queer Ultimatum too. Didn't that happen in Queer Ultimatum? It doesn't matter. Okay, either way. I just think this is like a crazy attitude to have. It doesn't make any sense.
I know a lot of conversations going on about me and Sandy.
You know what it feels like? It feels like, this is such a stupid example, but it feels like you go to like a nude art festival and then your girlfriend gets nude and you're like, why are you getting naked? It's like, well, everybody else is naked. It's like, yeah, but why are you naked? What? We're at a nude art festival. I thought we were getting naked. It's like, no, we're here. We're participating, but we're not going to get naked. It's like, oh, then why are we here? Like, we might as well have an opportunity to feel naked and safe. Like, I don't understand. Just get naked, or at least, or don't go on the show if you don't want to get naked. I don't know. It all just feels silly.
But where are you with Zaina? And like, where is that for your relationship? That conversation's obviously not captured, but
Yeah.
I never had a specific issue, nor do I, with JR as a human. If I was,
No, he's way too cocky. I mean, this man thinks he like
I don't
is
know him.
God.
I don't
Who?
know.
he-
Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
very-
Mm. They hate JR more than Nick. They see Nick as a victim and JR as like cocky. Oh, maybe it is racism. Oh my God. Is it actually racism? What? Like, yeah, JR was like cocky, but he wasn't worse than Nick. Like, Nick was literally worse than him as a human being.
he's like, everyone is scared of me. Everyone wants to be me. Everyone wants to date me. Which
I can't speak to, I honestly,
What do you,
That's just what
how
it
do you
looks like
see
on TV.
JR after watching it back?
I mean, look, JR has this like exterior shell, and I kind of talk about it. I mean, I wish they showed more. I was like really trying to help him like break that down, because him and I actually had a lot of conversation around his past, his childhood, his upbringing, his divorce, like, you know, things that were deep rooted for both of us. And so I feel like I really saw kind of like what's underneath all of there deep down. And I was kind of like vouching for that, but nobody sees it because that's not what he leads with, obviously. And even
I mean,
with other
honestly, even if I
people.
did see that, I don't
Right.
honestly like. I don't have much patience for the guy or whoever, but maybe I'm more critical of men in that department.
You mean of black men? Be just as critical as Nick is literally an abuser. Nick is literally an abuser. He abused Sandy. There was toxic abuse in that series. And he's going after JR so hard right now. I'm going to call it, I agree with you, chat, racism. It's literally racism. Because until the reunion, I genuinely was like, JR's handling things like really well. Like, oh my God. Why? Ah! Wow.
But like, I don't care about the guy who can open up to the girl he's trying not, to hook up with, or
Open up,
and
you
be
mean,
soft or
yeah.
whatever, and then be an asshole to everyone else. Like
Right.
that doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, look, I cannot speak for JR. That's his thing.
No,
but
no, I'm not asking you. I'm
I
just curious if
do-
you see him differently, and were you
Yeah, I
surprised
do.
by
So
things
I
you
think
watched back?
I think in the beginning, honestly, I'll be real, like I couldn't see that because we're not interacting with the other castmates, you guys. Like, we're not allowed to interact with other castmates. You were literally just with this person. And so I didn't really see any of that stuff until a little bit later. And it's more
I mean, JR wasn't perfect, right? We know that. But it was the idea that Nick is being played as the underdog, which is crazy. Chat says they saw him as an F-boy and Nick as the underdog, even though he was manic and obsessive and called it love. That's what I'm saying. What are we talking about here? Like, Nick might, I mean, JR might have been a fuckboy. JR might have been like into his muscles and stuff, which, by the way, I said it the whole time. JR was the only one who looked good. Like, okay, let's be so for real. And I think I was the most attracted to JR, and anytime he talked about his diet, because I was like, that protein, that working out regimen, that stuff, that I love that. But also, I knew JR wasn't perfect. We knew JR had problems, but it wasn't anywhere near Nick problems. Like, Nick was literally abusive. Okay, so it's kind of crazy that like sweaty ass looks like he never showers Nick, looks like his breath smells from alcohol 4 days ago. Nick had the audacity to come from just showered, but worked out, but also showered again, got his hair, perfectly done. JR, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, JR looked like he smells good, and Nick looks like I would vomit, okay? It just feels like, why are you going after the man who looks like he smells good? That feels like jealousy to me, okay? Or envy. That feels like envy. You know what I mean? I don't know, bro. Do you chat says could be racism or could be a thing they have against hot people or something? Pretty privilege, but in reverse, pretty hate. Maybe it's a pretty hate comment. Like, oh, JR thinks he's cool because he works out and has muscles. I mean, Nick's a pussy, bro. Brittany. I could take him in a fight. I just know it. I could take him in a fight. I'd be like, Nick, your art is shit. You wish you could draw. A blind person could draw better than you. Shout out to my blind people. You know what I mean? Shout out to my blind people. Listen. Oh, the way I'd be like, I just tell Nick, like, ooh, nah. He'd be like, oh, you know what I mean? I can't. People like Nick, worst category of person, bro. Worst category of person.
time went on and his interactions with you and whatnot.
Thank you, chat. Says you could beat him in Smash for sure. I could beat him in Smash for sure, bro. I bet his main, like, who Greninja or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, fuck you, okay?
And it, it would bother me because I'm a very like social person. I'm very big on, making friends and whatnot and just like being kind to other people. I know I might not look like that, but I really am. And I was like, why are you like, why do you have a problem with everybody? Like, that's just not how I am. But again, we're in this like weird experiment. You're matched up with somebody. You gotta pick from one of 5 people there. And once you're in there, you're in it. And it's like, there's a lot more that you guys just aren't seeing, obviously, in terms of like what we're working on, the conversations that we're having, how we're trying to like show up for each other so that we can show up better for our partners and challenge each other on certain things. Like, I understand that like doesn't make any sense because you quite literally see 0 of that. So like, why would anybody think that? But with these really intense experiences, there's a reason it's 2 months because you want to get the whole experience. And it's more than just what we're seeing, obviously. There's, because at the end of it, it's like there is a decision for an engagement or whatnot. And you really are kind of going through like a trial marriage. I don't know. I do see things differently. Just like having over a year to kind of like process everything, having a step away from it, and then now like seeing it as a mirror for sure.
I mean, I think especially at the reunion when they showed all of his clips of him continuing to disrespect Zaina when it wasn't even like
before he even got to you
before
guys.
he even before it was even like he had picked his trial wife. It was telling Arya he was going to get her pregnant and like I feel like
wait, but we didn't hear those things until the reunion, right? I think a lot of the flirty jokes JR made, we didn't hear all of them until the reunion, I thought. Did we hear those jokes during the dating phase? I mean, maybe. We heard the foot stuff. We heard some of the stuff during the dating phase. But even so, everybody was like flirting too. Like, it feels weird for JR to be picked on like he was the only one flirting. Was his flirting more obnoxious than everyone else? Yes. But he wasn't the only one flirting, right? Like, he even said that during the reunion. People were acting like JR was the only one flirting. But he wasn't. Everybody was flirting. It feels, I don't know. They were flirting. I mean, you know how I felt about JR and Sandy's flirtation. It was so high school. Like, JR flirts like he's in high school. Like, are you wet? Are you wet right now? Like, like JR, shut up. JR is hotter when he doesn't talk, for sure, as most people are. Most people are more attractive when they don't talk, myself included. and then we be talking, you know what I mean? But yeah, I feel like I need to defend JR more because they're literally taking the side of an abuser. And I think that's annoying. Now, if JR was for real cheating on Zaina, which I assume he was, also toxic and abusive, to literally tell Zaina, like, cheating wounded me, I'm so fucked up from cheating, and then to cheat. Now, he looked really distraught during the reunion. JR looked definitely different. Like, he lost some muscle mass different. He just looked like withered away. And I'm not sure what that was about. But obviously, even JR was, I think, wrong to keep Zaina in the loop. All these people got to let go of their exes. Y'all got to, your exes off. Cut them off. Cut them off, girls. Stop trying to be friends with your exes.
Like, all of those things, even the hall pass.
Yeah.
Slip. I mean,
I'll be honest. Like, there were a lot of things that I didn't see when I was in there because I'm just like fun and flirty and like, oh, whatever. Me and Nick go into it. We're like, we're having fun, whatever. And then it's like, and I realized that there was definitely a lot of things where like I just shouldn't have even like gone along with it. Or I honestly like I can see it in my face. I remember certain moments where like I'm like, okay, can we not say that right now? Can we not talk about that? Like, I just would get a little bit uncomfortable. But it's like then we would instantly talk about spirituality or our families, and it was like, okay, cool. Obviously, that's not shown, but there were a lot of those comments that were just inappropriate, and there was just too much of it, honestly. And it just was like, okay, enough. And and then seeing some of the things that he was saying, honestly, about me, like that I had no idea about, were really upsetting to me. And I just was like, the whole like, wants to be with a white girl, no strings attached comment, like that was
for sure super weird. And I did say that both Sandy and JR feel like they're kind of playing the I've never been with a black man, I've never been with a white woman thing. I don't know if that's true, but I did call it out when we first saw it, where I thought it was really gross of JR. So again, I don't want to defend JR because he's just a man, you know what I'm saying? But I hate the idea that they hate JR more than they hate Nick. I have to hate Nick on principle more than JR, but I hate all of them because they're men. Just kidding. No misandry in the chat, guys. No misandry in the chat. You know what I mean? Like, it's that idea of like Nick had a higher probability of killing somebody during that. Scotty and Nick definitely be killing people out here in energy. And JR, he just wants to fuck. And you know, how can I blame him? But also, I'd rather a person who wants to consensually fuck than a person that wants to unconsensually yell and abuse and verbally berate their partners on TV, on Netflix, forever. Ma'am?
I just was like, wow, like that's really interesting because that's not how I was perceiving like our connection or whatnot. And so yeah, that was upsetting to see. And had I known certain bits of information, maybe I would have done things differently. But
You did mention feeling unseen in your relationship with Nick. I think that's unfortunately a very relatable feeling.
yeah,
So I am sorry that you felt that way in that relationship. You did at the changeover use some big words to describe Nick. Tormented, attacked.
yeah.
I think we all are just confused. Like, I
Yeah,
think can we just
there's
have
like-
some
you're like,
context?
what are you talking about?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
why did you feel that way?
I mean, there's a lot of things that have happened in our relationship and through the process where Nick's emotion.
Ooh, Chad says, I really thought Caleb was the rare unicorn Prince Charming, but now I'm not sure. I think Caleb was nice enough, but he was too weak of character for me. But that makes sense. Like, who else would be on the show except people with weak character, right? Everybody on the show was broken. That's why they're here. So like, Caleb was nice, but you know, what does that mean?
Like volatility or instability genuinely just crossed way too many boundaries. And I think at the changeover, it was right after a big tipping point, and you can see it. I am so upset. I am clearly so mad. Nick is apologizing to me. We're like, what the fuck is this about though? You know, it doesn't really make any sense because why would he be apologizing to her? She's just going through this trial marriage with Jared. He's alone, but there's just a lot more that we can't see. And honestly, it's relationship stuff. And there's things that Nick has struggled with. I think more
You
than
need to just basically, you know, I was drinking and I was texting like crazy
It's-
and calling like
Could
crazy.
you give us
and
some context?
it's
Because
not
I think
she felt like I was doing everything in my power to ruin the experience for her.
not
And
really though.
I think that's the disconnect. Is like, you clearly didn't handle it well, but I don't know if anyone would in that position. And I think
Every time, how old is this guy? What's this guy's name, guys? What's this guy's name? Nick Vale. All these Nicks. He's 44 years old. What a stunted loser, bro. What a stunted fucking loser. Oh my God, what? Every time I think I'm a late bloomer, every time I think, man, I'm really behind, I cannot believe I learned lessons at 30 that this fucker hasn't learned at 44. God bless my neurodivergent fucking brain. My curiosity has really paid off because Jesus, the fact that he said, I don't think anyone in that position could have handled it, like would have handled it better. What? What are you talking about? I feel like 99% of people would have handled that better. I feel like literally most people would have handled that better. I don't even understand. You know? That's crazy. That's hilarious to me. Chad says, do you think that Caleb really developed feelings for Arya? I saw that he was consistent with not getting too involved because of Mariah, and I thought Arya, her ego got a little hurt a little bit. What do you think? Yeah, I think he did develop feelings for Arya. I just don't know how deep they were. But the idea that he hadn't and he was treating her the way he was treating her, like, I mean, obviously there was some connection. I think that's what Sandy's trying to do by making sure like there was a connection with JR. It wasn't like it was super casual, but it was like there. It was like authentic. The feelings were shared authentically. I think Caleb downplayed his feelings. Now, it doesn't mean he was thinking about Arya as a partner, right? I'm not sure that Caleb was thinking about a forever. You know what I mean? Like a forever with Arya, but he was definitely like connected to her. Like you can have feelings for somebody and not want to be with them. I think we're learning that throughout this show. Let's see. Chet says he probably feels identified with Nick. That's why he's glazing him up. Ew. Maybe Nick and Nick together forever.
I think it's just more like,
but I can also like, and I've gotten to this point now where like, if the relationship was solid.
Oh, and they're both about 40. That's interesting. 44 and I think 39.
we would have come together. You know, I think she would have been less upset with the past. She would have been less upset with we would have come together. And I've gotten to this point now where like, if the relationship was solid, we would have come together. You know, I think she
If the relationship was solid, you wouldn't have been on this show. Obviously.
would have been less upset with the past. She would have been less upset with the contact. She, I think, was upset at me leading into the show, which bled into the show. And then when I showed up like, oh my God, I need you. And she's like, well, dude, you haven't been here.
I mean, that makes a lot of
wasn't
sense.
just
If you were that absent leading
Yeah.
up.
Honestly, chat says if my boyfriend agreed with either Nick, I would have real questions about my own judgment being with them. This is a great test of a relationship. Actually, one of my favorite things to do is watch these shows with my partner, though we've had to stop because I've been watching it for stream or for like YouTube. But we will watch these dating shows together just to like check in with each other. Like, how do you feel about this? And and it's so nice to be on the same page as somebody to see them react. So we've gone out back and watched like previous seasons together. And I'm like, what do you think about this? And it is like, it's a good test to make sure you're on the same page. That's another way that spending time with your partners can be really meaningful, is to make sure that you're coming to the same conclusions or having similar conversations about these types of dynamics, you know?
I mean,
Your relationship.
yeah, and I
like
think-
if you were, I mean, like, were you giving like, I'm an artist, I need to paint all night and I can't talk? Like,
Yeah, I don't even care about that though. I support his art. Like I'm his biggest supporter of his art. No, it doesn't
I don't
seem
doubt that. But again,
But
or if you're
that's
just like
It's running away from
having all
me
these very
and-
rigid, like I'm available, I'm not available, I'm available, I'm not available. Was it like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of instability with it, and it takes a toll.
Why'd you stay in that relationship? It was so hard.
I don't know. I really loved him. Like,
Okay, hold on. I resent that question. But also, let's see. Okay, Instagram. Here's Nick's Instagram. Here, let's look at his art. Okay, hold on. Let me change it.
I really did. Like, it's like a weird, hard thing. I mean, I still love him. I care about him.
But why were you
tremendously.
in love with
I
him
was in
so
love
much
with him
that you want to
because
put up
he
with?
showed me, like, he opened up my eyes to life. He really did. He changed my world in like the best way. And like, literally gonna get emotional, but he like we just had actually some of the most beautiful moments I've ever had in my life. And I don't know, it's like we did actually have a really beautiful relationship. He opened up my perspective. He opened up my heart. Like I actually grew as a human from loving him. Most people grow through heartbreaks. Like I grew through loving him because there were a lot of challenges in there. And like there are things that he struggles with in himself and that I really showed up for him a lot of ways. And I don't know, we just had the best moments together. And I really, yeah, we have a very deep like soul connection, and he's just one of the most amazing humans that I've met. And it's hard because it doesn't mean that he's the right life partner for me or that we're the right life partners for each other. But I've never had a relationship where it's like we were always so understanding of one another and so like free and just trusting. And it was healthy in a lot of ways until it wasn't, you know. He really he changed my world. Like he really has.
What are you thinking? What do you feeling?
I mean, I'm a lot of gratitude for the words, and I think that I don't choose people as partners that I think are not going to be something that I mean, I do lead with my heart and my soul. I felt like there was that soul connection from the beginning. I did feel there was a depth and energy to her and a spirituality that was like, so it resonates through me when I'm with her. But our lifestyles were challenging for me to feel safe. And
What did he just say? He said their lifestyles didn't make him feel safe. Notice how Nick is never safe? He just never feels safe with Sandy. He can't feel safe if she doesn't let him yell at her. How can I feel safe if I can't berate you in the middle of the night with 100 text messages? How can I feel safe in this relationship if I'm not allowed to yell at you? Bro. The way he always paints every situation is he doesn't feel safe. I'm sorry, is Sandy at your door? Knocking it down at 2 a.m. in the morning or whatever it was? Girl, please, girl.
What do you mean by that?
She's a big social life. She's, she goes out a lot. And I never felt like I was she was gonna be unfaithful or anything to that degree, but I didn't feel like I was.
You felt uncomfortable maybe with the environment she was.
Yeah, I felt like it was kind of like a vacant space that I had, already seen. And I was curious what was filling her cup in that area.
Sure.
But I am different. And like that does fill her cup. And I think that I have some social anxiety and she has social integration. And she's like very comfortable walking into a room with a ton of people. And I am more comfortable in my studio or whatever it may have, it's like, and so when it comes up, like, let you go ahead, go do your thing. It's because it didn't feel like I needed to be a part of it, but I did feel like it is more a part of her life than somebody that I want to be with. And I think that it felt like I was maybe just wanting a slower pace for things.
Yeah,
and, I think that I was trying to organically.
Does that slower pace also involve an addiction, alcohol, and berating people? Does that slower pace also involve leaving your partner and ignoring them for nights at a time because you're like an artist? You know what I mean? He's like using language that people use to indicate like a healthier turn of a lifestyle. Like, I just want to kind of settle down. I don't want to go out clubbing anymore. Like, there is a healthy version of like, yeah, I'm too old to go to the club. I think that's true, but I don't think it's Nick. You know what I mean? Like, Nick isn't indicating the healthy version of I'm too old to go to the club now. And that's what's throwing me off. Like, I'm telling you, he's weaponizing language. I don't feel safe. I feel unseen. I feel unheard. He's using all of this language, but none of it is real for his story. It feels like he's just 100% weaponizing. Yeah. It sounds like he took all the wrong lessons from couples counseling. Okay, I'll tell you a horror story. I was dating this really toxic person. And there was definitely like a lot of emotional abuse. I just couldn't understand it at the time. And I took them to one of my therapy sessions with a therapist that I didn't end up liking. I ended up firing her because she just was obviously couldn't see us. Like, she wasn't being good at her job. Okay. My second therapist was amazing, but she was a woman. I saw her like 6 times or something. I took him to one of the therapy sessions and it became like, it definitely became a thing he weaponized. He's like, remember what your therapist said? Remember what your therapist said? And I'm like, yeah, I feel like there's a confusion about the situation right now and what's happening. Cause like, at least Nick has a job and that's great. I think the weaponization of therapy language shows in the data afterwards. And my partner might have learned the language, but he didn't incorporate it into his life. Do you know what I mean? So for me, it felt like you can't use therapy language at me if your life hasn't changed and you're exactly the same person, if not worse, than when we started this. And we didn't go to therapy together. He just came for one of my sessions because he refused to go to therapy. So the irony was like my partner at the time refused to go to therapy, but I needed therapy. So I went to therapy. And then he's like, I don't need therapy. You need therapy. That's why you're in therapy. And I was like, yes, but I think you need therapy. He's like, I don't need therapy. I was like, you're not functional. Like, things are wrong. And he's like, well, they're wrong because you need therapy. And I was like, I feel like it can't just be I need therapy, because it's true, I needed therapy, but I didn't feel like the relationship was falling apart because I solely needed therapy. And congratulations, that was true. But at the time I couldn't get it. I think my ex was a cross between like, if a brokey was also Nick, but also like was sure he had the answer for every problem. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to explain to you, like, the kinds of people that I've dated, but I've always dated people that were confident, or I thought confident because I'm confident, but I realized they're not confident. They're loudly wrong all of the time. They're like deeply insecure, so they are loudly wrong all of the time. And look, at first, people really liked my ex. And then they were like, I hate this person. And I was like, yeah, like there's something wrong with him. But I kept thinking if I could just get him therapy. I think I sounded probably like Sandy did to my friends and family, where I was like, he's like, I see parts of him that are so special. And, you know, if he just got help, he'd be so much greater. But like, no matter how many interventions we made, it just never got better. No matter how many people got involved, no matter how many people tried to help him, house him, pay for him, give him like access to school or work or anything, nothing. Just completely down the drain every time. Every single person who tried to help him, like, could not help himself to save his life, could not eat the cupcake. Just like could not eat the cupcake. It is what it is. Some people just end up being that, you know? Nick is weird though. Is he like a 2C? Is that what Nick is? I can't decide, you know? He obviously eats some sort of cupcake sometimes, but it's like he nibbles off the frosting but doesn't go for the full cupcake. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, you can't just eat the frosting. You're not like a 2-year-old. You got to eat the whole cupcake. You know?
Kind of massage her that way. Like, look at how beautiful, like, us, a house by the lake, and like chill and this. And she's like, yeah, but you know, what about this place in LA? And I'm like, you know, it's just, we would laugh about it, and then the conversation would kind of end, and we both kind of like, it wouldn't really come to a solution whatsoever. And that was just, I am not in that scene. And it's not to take away from anything that, but like what I've been working on also is like my people pleasing thing, right? So like, I'll just say, oh, this is okay, and I'm okay with it, when maybe I'm really not so okay with it, and I'm not asking for what I need in a relationship, and like not really putting myself first in certain ways, and then resenting, or like quietly resenting through it, and not, you know, just like actively being a part of it. So, you know, it's really wonderful and magical to feel what she just said. I think that I have had a hard time through this, like knowing that. I knew it in my gut, but like, I don't think that description came within our relationship often. I think you would probably agree.
What
do you mean?
You describing how much you love me and why you love me. And
yeah, I mean, words of affirmation is not my thing. It's really challenging for me to like really speak up for myself sometimes and say what's on my heart and how I feel about certain things. Whereas it's really easy for you to do that, you know, and we do have different ways that we
I
kind of
was
show our love and
definitely
affection.
craving that, like very much from her. And then
Guys.
we'd have these breakthroughs.
You guys just seem completely not compatible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like not compatible. Yeah, that's so interesting. Also, I will say this. It's easier to give words of affirmation to a partner when you genuinely mean it. And if she's not given opportunities to warrant that naturally, and she has to do it out of obligation, it's not going to be authentic. Did he seek out words of affirmation she couldn't give because she wasn't in a healthy enough relationship? I wonder about that. I do. Because, you know, again, like, it's like that idea of like, look, even for the smallest thing, we always say like, thank you in this relation, in my marriage. I think I value, because like you still have to give good manners even if you're married. I don't want to take for granted when my partner like, baby, can you get me a glass of water? And then he brings me a glass of water. I'm like, thank you, I love you. And he's like, yeah, like, what am I going to say? Like, that's right, bitch. Like, bring me my glass of water. Like, no. In the same way that if my dad brought me a glass of water, I'd be like, thanks, Dad, love you. Or if my mom or my brother gave me a glass of water, I'd be like, thanks, bro, I love you. Like, thanks. Like, I want them to know I'm not taking them for granted. But it comes naturally because also when I ask them for a glass of water, they're like, sure, I got you. The other day, I saw a TikTok that was like, test your siblings, ask them for money and see who sends you some. And I texted my group chat. I was like, yo, I need $100. Can anyone get me? Could like anyone got me? And my bros were like, all my little brothers like, sure, what's your Zelle, bro? And I was like, I'm just kidding. You think I don't have $100? And they're like, I don't know, bro. They didn't even ask. They're just like, okay, what's your Zelle? And I was like, like, it's just like they didn't even ask, like, what did I need it for? They're just like, what do you, okay. Like, what's up? You know what I mean? It's that idea is like really nice. Not that anyone should be able to, like, any amount of money would have been silly. I'm sure if it was $5,000, they'd be like, what the fuck? What do you need $5,000 for? But it was like $100. So like, yeah, sure. Like, what do you know, and they know I'm good for it. So it's like, I think that's earned over time. Versus if my ex-boyfriends were like, can I have $100? I'd be like, why? Why do you need $100? Because a part of me is like, why? Like we didn't share money. You know, I never shared money with anybody before. So if they needed $100, I'd be like, what do you need $100 for? Because you're a grown up, you should have $100. But if you don't have $100, like, what do you need it for? Do you know what I mean? It's like, there's one part of like, you know, I trust my siblings kind of more than I would even trust people I dated because I knew my siblings longer. I knew their reputations, you know, and like, I can spare $100, you know what I mean? So I think like, sometimes we want words of affirmation. We want people to give us verbal confirmation that we're doing great, but like you kind of got to do great to get those words of affirmation. Do you know what I mean? You know, like I think it's different when you're in a relationship where maybe a partner struggles feeling like they're doing enough, but they are doing enough versus a partner who's not doing enough and they still want to be treated like they're doing enough. That's the struggle. Truly, and this is to all my disabled folks out there, if you're disabled and you're not taking advantage of your partner and you feel like, oh my God, I'm not doing enough, you're probably doing enough. But if you're out here taking advantage of your partner and you're like, tell me I'm doing good enough, you know, that's what I think Nick is. I feel like Nick is the guy who feels entitled to the praise without earning it. I think if Sandy was with somebody who genuinely, because I swear to God, she was very words of affirmation with JR. Wasn't she totally words of affirmation with JR? Am I crazy? But I thought she was very good at affirming JR because JR felt super seen. Wait a second. See? Yeah, she wasn't she? Thank you, chat. Confirm my memory because that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm telling you, bro. I think she's just with Nick and Nick sucks. And she's taking on the responsibility of saying like, yeah, that's just not like who I am. I used to say with my ex-partners, oh yeah, I don't really like kissing or looking people in the eye when we have sex. How traumatized was I? How fucking traumatized was I, bro? When I didn't like slow romantic making love moments when I was with my partners, I was like, nah. And now that I'm married and in love, very different. Let me tell you, there's a lot of eye contact. You know what I mean? Like, how fucked up are we in our past relationships that we're like, yeah, I don't like kissing my partner. I guess I'm not that into kissing. And then you end up with a partner you're in love with. You're like, actually, I hella like kissing, bro. I could do this forever. I could do this more than anything else. That's what it feels like. Like Sandy's like, I don't give words of affirmation. Maybe it's the partner you're with, bro. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At the reunion, they brought out Vanessa and Dave, which I completely could have done without.
No, you're right.
I mean, it was
Unnecessary.
very unnecessary. But Vanessa felt
Absolutely necessary. Hearing from Vanessa was so important, especially for like validation for Sandy. I hate this couple. Oh my God. I don't like these people. Whatever category of humans this couple is, I am not a fan. I am not a fan. What? I could have done it without. Totally unnecessary. It completely like brought into reality like Nick's abusive behavior.
felt like it was her place, which I have zero respect for when someone, especially someone who you knew for around 2 days maybe, tells you it's time for you to deal with your trauma and to go to therapy.
Oh, these are bad people. These are bad people. I'm going to say it right now. These people are not good. These are not healthy people. These are very unhealthy people. We are telling an abuser, you need to get your fucking shit figured out. And this is, they seem like rape apologists. They are. I guarantee you they're rape apologists. I guarantee you the way they are being an abuse apologist through this whole fucking podcast. Whoa. Wow. This is why people let abusers run wild. Who are these losers? I've never heard of this podcast. What a fucking loser, bro.
And to get the help that you need. Because it's like, that's probably not going to help, outing that on a national television show. Sandy, how is that for you to hear someone knowing, I imagine, some of the stuff that he's been through in his life?
Yeah.
Great point, chat says, the fact that someone you knew for only 2 days sees that you need help speaks volumes. Exactly. Or in some cases, the fact that I've known you for 3 hours and I saw how abusive and toxic you were, I left this show. Hello?
Kind of air out, that dirty laundry on TV.
I mean, I was shocked. I couldn't believe that I couldn't believe that she was saying the things that she was, because I had no idea that that's was her experience, or that she even uncovered that. What she was saying, it was like, I felt like she was speaking for me almost. Like, it was like she was, articulating a lot of things that I very deeply was kind of going through in the relationship that I had been struggling with for years, that I haven't really been able to like verbalize or talk about.
Right, because I was talking about you the whole time.
Right.
Of course, you could give like that's
No,
that's the
but
thing.
Nick,
It's like,
but
of
about
course she knows that that's what your experience is, because I'm telling her
because
how
you
much
told
I
her
fucked
that
up.
stuff.
Yes, of
Okay,
course.
I mean, I don't know-
I miss her.
I
I
don't
can't believe this is happening. How why would
No, but
like,
about it just it was really surprising. I had no idea that, like, I'm like, how do you
Vanessa
know
and I
all
were
this
also
stuff?
communicating after like friends. I thought Vanessa was a friend.
No. Oh my God. Chat says this podcast, they interview reality TV show stars all the time and enable all their toxic ass shit they do. Fuck. This is a toxic podcast. Wow. This podcast is literally so dangerous. This is like I'm so upset at how dangerous this podcast is. This is crazy.
She's not. It's obvious.
But I do want to say,
That's
like,
good.
I'm sorry. Is Vanessa not friends with an abuser? God, Vanessa's such a bad person. I can't believe she wouldn't stay friends with an abuser. Like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
10-minute bullshit right there.
She should have stayed on her couch.
I do want to say, like,
Whoa.
that it was like a weird thing where I'm like, she was almost kind of speaking certain things that I had felt, but I had never really spoken up about. It was also kind of weird because I'm like, wait, are you his ex-girlfriend or am I?
See, Sandy's okay. Good, Sandy. You can do it, but she's being dogpiled. You can do this, Sandy.
Like, so it was a little bit interesting where I haven't really felt comfortable sharing certain things or talking about certain things. And she did. I don't know. And I think that in some ways, like, it kind of was
Validated?
describing some things that I had been going through with you.
Yep.
Because I described everything I was going through with you.
They're gaslighting you right here on national television. It's not. It's YouTube. But oh my God, I'm gonna scream. Oh my God, I'm gonna fucking scream. I'm gonna kill myself. I'm gonna literally kill myself. Oh my God, I'm sorry. The way I... Okay. Humans are gonna human.
Was describing some things that I had been going through with you.
Because I described everything I was going through with you to her, which she
Okay.
knew. Otherwise,
Yeah,
why
I-
would she? I mean,
I just, it was really
was-
interesting that but
There seems to be something that has happened that y'all don't want to talk about or you aren't ready to share.
I think it's very clear. I was using alcohol, and not on the show, but other things prior to and after, and I was numbing. And I have realized that there's something there, and that I need to take care of that, and that I was.
And not to diminish that, because obviously that substance abuse of any kind, but like, are we talking like you got drunk and text too much, or did you?
Oh, I'm gonna slap the fuck out of them. I'm just gonna slap the ever living metaphorical fuck out of them. Bye. Bye, sweet girl. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. These are the worst humans on earth. These are abuse enablers. These are the rape apologists. These are the people you have to watch out for in your life, because they will ask you why your teacher molested you at 13. What were you wearing? Because let's be like so for real. These are bad people. These are bad people.
Do you like say something like you really fucking said, or you know what I'm saying? Like, I guess that's the.
I think
you
Sandy
guys
was.
keep referencing you drank, and we get it. Like you
Yeah.
medicated.
it's
was going
not-
through a hard time. You weren't your best self when you were drunk.
I think
No
it's
one is.
more than just through the experience. Like, I think there's been patterns in the relationship, and a lot of people can probably relate to that struggle with, any sort of substance abuse. There's textbook patterns and things that happen within yourself and around with the people that you love and relationships. And it's really, really hard to navigate.
And it's also hard to be in that from her end and not know necessarily how to support it, because her relationship with it was different. And you know,
Very
and
different.
she drinks and parties in the way that she parties, and I took it to another place. And I was, I think the numbing thing, it's like just to be with yourself and be with your emotions sober and like let that be what it is, has been a challenge for me. And I think that created, a bit of the way I would check out, or the way I would speak to her felt like, I don't know. I mean, it's your experience. I think my version of it was I was looking for comfort that I needed to work through, but I was looking for her to answer the question when I need to answer it within myself. Trying to pour all of this onto her and say, can you figure out how to figure me out? Right. And like, that's a lot for somebody who's also like and I'm not saying that she fell out of love with me at a certain point, but I think that I've looked at myself through this and I'm not attracted to what I see. So I can't imagine that being a safe place
I still think he's weaponizing therapy language.
or something that she wanted to continue in. And like, I think as a friend and as a human, we were always supportive, but I think that she was recognizing that that wasn't a space that she wanted to be in.
I think numbing pain is very relatable. I've been through a lot of trauma myself, and the way that I numbed it was just lying to myself. And I'd be like, that actually never happened to me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know who that was, but it wasn't me. How did you get out of looking at alcohol and other things to numb that and to get to where you are now?
I mean, it's every day is a process. I've had a couple, times where I've gone back. I did go to recovery. It was traditional, inpatient, and I felt a lot of community there, which was one of my biggest takeaways, that I do tend to isolate when I feel badly. And that, not being vulnerable to need a support system when I needed it. And again, just looking at Sandy.
I think Nick sober I think if Nick didn't have addiction problems, he'd still be a shitty person. His addiction isn't making him a shitty person. He is a shitty person with an addiction. These are different things. For some people, good people get addicted and become victims to their addiction. True. Bad people get addicted, but the addiction didn't make them bad people. They were bad before the addiction. That's Nick. I refuse to believe this is a good person. He gives no indication of being a good person. I'm sorry. Maybe in the core of underneath all of the sludge, he's a good person, which we love. I think a lot of people at their core are good, but that doesn't matter. Your sludge too thick, bitch. Okay, he's so no-face right now in the steam bath scene where he's running after Sen. You know what I'm saying? Like, girl can't fix her problems, sure. Vomit out your bullshit and get back to square one. Okay, we all need to vomit out our bullshit, get back to square one, okay?
To kind of be the guiding light for what I needed to explore with other people who have been through a similar situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried, like, I really gave it my all with trying to like be there for you and show up for you. I would drop everything and go make sure he was okay. If he
Don't stop doing that. Sandy, I know you're not watching my video, but for every Sandy out there in the world, open with boundaries and shut this door, girl. Shut the door, lock it, throw away the key, throw away the portal gun. No more. Fuck this timeline. Get off the train. He's never going to change. It is never going to get better for you. And when you're married and have your own kids, you're going to have crazy Uncle Nick in your life for no fucking reason. Block. Goodbye. Bye-bye. We're ending. We're done. Thank you.
was struggling with certain things, or
What about like on a day-to-day basis?
I mean,
Countless
conversations and like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's like, how do you like really show up and support somebody that's going through,
I guess just in general, how did you guys show up for each other in the relationship when it was good?
I mean, we've had a lot of really, really good conversations around really heavy, hard topics. And, I think just showing him the love and compassion when he was broken, and like,
So you gave him a safe space
I
to
gave
be
him a safe
vulnerable and to
space,
be
of
open.
course. Yeah. We were like,
That's huge.
I very much, and I never like judged him for any of it. Like, I was very much a safe space for you to open up and share all that stuff with me.
Actually, she needs to start judging. That is actually Sandy's biggest problem. You need to start judging, sis. She's not judging in the bad way. Discernment. She's not discerning. She's not judging his consciousness, which I'm not either, by the way. But I am discerning that he a bad person. And I'm not saying forever. I'm saying the person he is now is none of my business. Okay? She needs to put him in the proper category to realize this is not her circus, not her monkeys. Okay? Nick is not your responsibility. As a friend, as a former lover, as anything. I think Sandy has codependency in Nick's addiction. Like, she feels responsible for it, you mean? She might feel responsible for Nick, which I'm getting, that she feels responsible for his safety and sanity, which she's not responsible for, by the way. She's not his mother or his therapist. Like, you're not responsible for this man's recovery. You know what I mean? Discord said, why do they keep asking her how she was helpful and positive in the relationship? Because they think she's the bad guy. They literally have the audacity to think Sandy is the bad guy. And she's taking it with grace, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous that they are literally infantilizing Nick, 10 years older Nick, and making her feel like she's responsible. She's not responsible. You know what I mean? Yeah, she needs to leave this relationship 100%. I don't know. Is she? I don't know if she's codependent, guys, in the actual definition. Codependency is a dysfunctional relationship dynamic where one person assumes the role of the giver and sacrificing their own needs and well-being for the sake of the other, the taker. The bond in question doesn't have to be romantic. It can occur easily between anybody. I don't know if they're quite codependent, if I'm going to be honest. I feel like they're in a toxic dynamic, but Sadie always chooses herself. But they're feeding into a toxic dynamic. Like my relationships, we were never codependent, but I would feed into caring about somebody. I think you can care about somebody in a toxic way without being codependent because of the way she puts down lines. I don't think she could be codependent and not actually like leave him. I don't know if she could be codependent and by definition codependent and actually put down any boundaries. Do you know what I'm saying? I feel like there's a difference between showing up for friends when before you realize there's no reason to show up and actually being codependent. You know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Codependent for me feels like if she was codependent, she'd be still dating him, I think. But maybe not. Or maybe she'd still be defending. I don't know. Maybe she is. Maybe she's close to being truly codependent in a sense. Or maybe she is. I don't know. I'm not a therapist. You know what? I'm not a therapist. I cannot tell. I don't know. I don't know clinically. I don't even know close. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
And I wanted to help. Like that was naturally like what we want to do as women is just like,
as women,
you know, have solutions and help and like nurture. And I was very, very nurturing to him through all of this. But also in turn, it was hurting me too, you know, because it's like, I have certain boundaries within myself and, you know, thing after thing would happen. And then it's like, I
feel like she functions without him. Codependency would indicate that she isn't functional without him, which I don't think is true. Do you know what I'm saying? Chat says, I think it's still codependent to be acting as a support for him like this. I just think it's toxic. I don't know. I have a hard time with the codependent because codependent feels like a symbiotic, a specific, codependent feels more like, I don't think she's like, if I talked to her, she wouldn't talk about Nick in a sense. Like, or maybe if I don't know, how long were they together? On again and off again for like 2.5 years. They weren't together very long. 9 months technically before the start of the show, but 2.5 years on again and off again. I'm struggling with the word codependent a little bit where I'm not sure if that, but they could be so toxic. Yeah, she had her own life outside of him. Like she isn't codependent feels like you don't have a life outside of each other. That's what I think of as codependent, but they obviously did. That was part of their relationship problem. Right? I feel like they have a toxic dynamic, but codependency, when I see it in parents and children or friends and family, it's like they don't have a life outside of each other. Like truly, you know? Let's see, Chet says she's still tethered to him. I think that's why they're codependent. Sure, she has moments of being away from him, but we don't know how much she's in his life. Well, even when they started this conversation for this stream, it didn't sound like they were together very much. You know? Chet says codependent insinuates that she feels she needs him as well. I don't think she needs him. I think she feels responsible for him. Yes, I agree. Because of the toxicity of their dynamic. Exactly. I don't think she thinks she needs him. I think she thinks she's supposed to be there as a woman, which is different. The why is different. Codependency is caring about someone else's healing more than they care about their own healing. I don't think that's the definition of codependent. It's the intolerance of the other people having emotional states that make you uncomfortable. That's not the definition of codependency, though. Codependency is a toxic dynamic in which one person is convinced they cannot literally live without that person, and they're willing to sacrifice at the expense of themselves everything for that person, and they do it together. Like, I feel like that's different, right? Let's see, feeling responsible for someone can be a part of the codependent experience for sure, right? We need a professional. We need like a therapist to actually look at this. But I would say like, for me, before I call someone codependent, because I feel like that's a pathology. I feel like it's a pathology. I would argue that most women fall into Sandy's category of thinking they need to be there for people without being codependent. Like, I mean, she's explaining the very normal dynamic of if you're raised female in the world, being there for people even when people aren't there for themselves. Women aren't all codependent, guys. We're raised this way though. So I would argue that we should be careful because like I want to make sure that even though women are raised to be the caretakers, the emotional laborers and all this stuff, that doesn't make us codependent, but we should break both cycles, right? Because she's explaining the cycle of being raised as a woman, which I do think is like a universal experience for many, many people who are raised as women.
I'm within myself, and you know, thing after thing would happen, and then it's like I'm disrespecting my own boundary by staying in it. But
I
it's
would lie.
just,
I would lie about using.
Yeah,
quite
like,
often.
lie a lot.
I mean,
Like,
I think it's like
it's a textbook thing, of course.
and
but
it's shame, you know, and it's guilt, and it's there's a
Is
lot
it more than alcohol?
Yeah. Yep. I
Yeah.
mean, I have a tendency. I've explored a lot of psychedelic therapy. Unfortunately, there's something in the psychedelic therapy world that is also a bit of a two-headed snake, and I got pretty into that.
No. You cannot do psychedelics unless you've done philosophy work first. Psychedelics are no good on a shitty brain. You have to have on a shitty consciousness. You have to be solid as a consciousness and do psychedelics responsibly.
So
Okay.
yeah.
You still feel ashamed of that right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the shame is in the lies, right? Because she did come to me countless times and say, just as long as you tell me the truth about what's going on, I can be there for you. But what happens is you feel so guilty about what you're doing that you feel like the rejection's the next thing to come, not support. It's not sexy to be involved in something that pulls you in a direction every time. And like, that's, I think as I look back and recognize like the escapism in it, it's like, what am I not seeing in myself that I need to go chase this feeling through, K or booze, and they're disassociatives, right?
Yeah.
So I want to disassociate.
So he was doing ketamine, right? Ketamine?
Especially when it comes to art. Like sometimes it's easier to just disassociate and be free with that.
Exactly. Chet says psychedelics, drugs in general, boost you in whatever direction you were already heading. Exactly.
I don't think drugs and alcohol are any stranger to people who are artists or creative. There's something in that. It's challenging. It is challenging to.
I hate the association with the creative and the destructive, which is very typical. I remember Nikki Sixx of Motley Crue did this interview where he said, now that I'm sober, people ask if I can still make good art. He goes, I can make good art sober. The lie we told ourselves was that good art came from our dysfunction. And I romanticized that when I was young. I used to wish I was more dysfunctional so I could make good art. I literally bought into that as like a teenager, like 15, 16 years old, 17, 19 years old. I used to be like, maybe if I'm more dysfunctional, I make better art. Yeah, good job, Brittany. Absolutely not,
to be sober and feel okay. But
Sandy, did you feel like he chose the drugs and alcohol over you?
Yeah, of course. Every time.
When Nick was talking about like the difference in lifestyles and the going out, are you single now? Are you?
Yeah.
You are? Yeah, I guess I'm curious what you think about what he was saying in terms of like just the different lifestyles or where you guys were in your life. And I guess more now, are you like in your single era because now you want to go out more and maybe like that kind of going out lifestyles is more conducive to being single? Or is it more like you want to find someone who also wants to go out?
I think just like my social life has always been a big thing for me. I'm genuinely love human interaction and making new friends. Like I
love that too.
I just am. I'm a social butterfly. And so for me, going out is really just having fun, going out and being with people, dancing with your girlfriends, whatnot. Like it energizes me. I'm an extrovert,
She's an extroverted queen.
Totally.
So
But how do you draw the line between being an extrovert and loving?
Yes, Chat says I'm behind, but you mentioning doing psychedelics with the wrong brain made me think of Boogie. I was also thinking about Boogie, girl. I was also thinking about Boogie.
The social aspect, going out, hanging with your girls versus also being like
in a relationship.
I was thinking about Boogie, and funny enough, do you guys remember when this is a long lore of, do you remember Debate Bro talking about how he had done mushrooms and had an ego death because he took like 10 milligrams. It was like a crazy amount. And first of all, if I took that many, my brain would explode. But I was like, obviously not. Because even before or after the psychedelics, it just amplified his predator behavior, right? So the irony is like, even if you take drugs, it doesn't mean it's going to give you the ego death you think you're having. You're not having an ego death. You have to change. Ego death should change you fundamentally as a person. And the pattern of behavior existed before and after the shrooms. You know what I mean? So it's kind of interesting the way these people are like, I did drugs and it changed me. Did it? Because you're still doing the same old shit. Okay?
In a relationship,
Yeah,
and like there's
totally.
going out and there's like being respectful
So
of
I
them in a
think for
relationship.
me is having a partner that also enjoys to go out to like that we can go socialize with couples and I don't need to go out all the time, you guys. Like I genuinely, I'm either a homebody or I'm out. Like it's kind of like one or the other for me. But something that's really big for me that I've realized just through
What's in
relationships.
between?
I don't know.
Hmm.
I think what's really
fuck was that question?
What's really big for me that I've realized throughout, like through my relationships, is I do want a partner that wants a similar thing, you know. It's and they have a social life too that they, you know, want to be around, and it's not like a shameful thing. It's not something that I need to like completely get rid of. I don't think being in a relationship.
Yeah, like they're shaming her for being an extrovert. Sandy's she should be a host. She likes to go to restaurants and bars or whatever. Like I get everyone has a different lifestyle, but like you're allowed to be social, guys. Like as a person who's not very social at this era of her life, like I'm not mad when people want to be social. Go be social.
Relationship means like, oh well, that's it. Like we're gonna wipe away like our social life. That's, you know what I mean. There's a way to do it. Yeah,
we're very social. I guess it just depends on what.
It depends on what
means,
totally. Like, do I need to go to the club with my man? I mean, maybe sometimes if we want to, but not all the time. I think there's just a level of socialization, and with Nick, for instance, like he's way more introverted.
Well,
and
I just have like an anti-club direction.
But you wouldn't even want to go out to dinners, Nick. Like you wouldn't want to go out to
Thank you, Sandy. I knew it. He's trying to paint her like a girl who goes out to the club too much, which I understand. Like a heterosexual club, like not cute. But also, like I have a feeling he didn't even want to go to dinner. I knew it. I fucking knew it. I had it in my gut that I bet this man don't even like pizza. I bet this man don't even like some pasta. You know what I mean?
dinners, you wouldn't want to go hang out with friends. So it's like we really had the best time, like ourselves, you know, hanging out on the couch and having our
See, I am not, yeah, I agree, Chad. I am not getting codependent vibes from her. Codependent is so fucking different. Like codependency is a real fucking pathology. Like you're not just codependent because like you're friends with a toxic person. Like listen to her. She's like, like she was like, yeah, I'm not waiting for you. I feel like a codependent person would have denied themselves any access to having a life. You know what I'm saying? She was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. Because I know in my relationships, I wasn't codependent, but I was in that toxic dynamic. But I would be like, if you're not going out, I'm going out. Like, I'm not going to wait. My life is not on pause for you. I am not codependent. My life is never on pause for you. Do you know what I mean? But like, there's a difference between feeling like you want to help a friend or you love somebody enough to get them therapy. Like, just because you're trying to get your friend into therapy or your lover into therapy or your mom into therapy does not mean you're codependent. You know what I mean?
On like dance party and whatever, but it's just, that's a lifestyle thing when it's a life partner that you do kind of want to be aligned with, because if not, that's a really big difference. But yeah, it's not just about like, oh, I want to be single because I want to go out. No, I'll be single until I find the right person.
I have to ask this. Did you have sex with JR?
No, absolutely not. I will set the record straight right here, right now. Literally nothing happened past a kiss with me and JR. I know it looks very bad. It looks a lot worse than it was. JR was a bit performative when it came to certain things. That's my wife. Oh, like, you know, hey girl, what you doing? Like, hey babe. He was never calling me babe when the cameras weren't around. Ever. Like,
he was performing.
A little bit, yeah. He would.
Okay, look, we're Discord and everybody, we're all sharing like different relationships with codependency. Ultimately, it's going to look different for everybody. But because it looks different for everybody, I'm going to say like, we all have to acknowledge that too. It looks different. Everyone's going to have a different label, like idea of what codependent is. But look, as somebody who's never been codependent with someone, I only know what it is because I don't know what it is from a lived experience. Do you know what I'm saying? So if you have it from a lived experience, I don't know what that looks like, but I just feel like I know what it's not. I can't imagine Sandy being codependent because it feels like all the codependent people that I've seen, they are so specific. They are like cannot fucking function dependent on a person, like losing themselves to the idea of not being around this person. And I feel like that's different. In the same way that trauma bonding isn't having shared trauma. Trauma bonding is going through a traumatic experience over a span of time that bonds you to that person because of the shared trauma, right? So I want to make sure, like, I know we're using even gaslit in my title, which is like, I should put gaslight in quotation marks because they're not technically gaslighting her or me. That's not the technical way you use that word. It's the colloquial. So I'll put it in quotation marks. Yeah, it doesn't feel like codependency. She just feels like she's being taken advantage of. I agree. I just feel like he's taking advantage of her and she doesn't realize it. She still thinks he's a good person. She has to realize he's a bad person. I think codependent people, I would argue, would almost say like, even though you're a bad person, we'll be bad together in some aspects, or like, I love you enough to like, I just feel like there's like a categorization here that's probably wrong. But like, I feel like she isn't, I'm going to be real. I don't think she likes him as much as people think she does. I don't think she's as dependent on him as people think she is. I think she sees him like a puppy she has to take care of, but one she doesn't want to adopt. I think she genuinely is going to eventually cut this man out, probably, but she doesn't know when to do it. Like, when do you give the puppy back to the pound? After you try everything. But like, giving the puppy back to the pound is hard, but I don't think she wants the puppy. I think she's stuck with it and she doesn't know what to do. Genuinely. I think she's like, fuck, I adopted a puppy and I don't like it. And the puppy's making her feel bad about it. Like, I can't believe you're going to take me back to the pound. And everybody in her life's like, I can't believe you're taking this puppy back to the pound. You adopted him. You have to keep him. And she's like, fuck. Yeah, she pities him. Exactly. She has pity for him, which is not, that's not healthy either. You don't have to pity somebody you have a relationship with.
Would never call, like, it was not the vibe. That's why it's really difficult for me to like see, because I'm like, damn, like, it really got, it really looks a certain way. But
didn't
we
that
were
bother you
flirty.
that he was playing it up for the camera?
You know what? Honestly, I'm very new here. We're just like normal humans that just got thrown into this, and then there's cameras around. You don't really know how it's all going to look.
Right.
And, we kind of were like, okay, like, it's my trial hubby, it's my trial wife, whatnot, and like really playing into it. But, there were certain things that he was playing up. And the guys' night, for instance, with him like almost insinuating that like we were sleeping.
Yeah, it was
like,
Nick's
it's
question, are you sleeping together?
Right, and
He
I-
said, in the same bed?
So I don't know what really happened because I wasn't there, but obviously there's editing
Yeah, I mean, there's editing involved and stuff. But yeah, like JR saying like in the same bed is like, JR, that's not what Nick's asking,
and whatnot. And it's like, oh, cliffhanger. But JR had told me specifically that he was kind of leaving it open-ended to be like, ooh. And I was like, why the fuck would you do that? Like, that's not something to play around with here. I'm over here in every interview and every conversation being like, we're not sleeping together. We're not hooking up, trying to lay that down because I owe that to myself. And I think he was kind of giving into like the drama of it a little bit. And it really fucked me over. Like, I don't know. It just,
I think JR would have chosen Sandy if she didn't reject him. I think that's why. I think JR fell for Sandy and he thought he was going to pick her maybe. And then Sandy turned him down, so he turned her down because what were you going to do, right? You have to accept the situation. But I think Sandy opened up something in JR that was different for him. And I think that's why he came such a mess to the reunion. Even after a year, I think like maybe some, like I really think she made him see himself for the first time in some way. And I feel like we're having a hard time realizing that. But again, it doesn't matter because like JR is responsible for how he handles it. And it sounds like he handled it really poorly. Right?
that sucks. That's really hard for me because
Actually, funny thing. The thing about introspection that's really scary is if you open the door just a little bit and you don't open it all the way and really face yourself, it can like make you go in spirals. I feel like JR opened the door just enough through Sandy to see himself, but he didn't open it enough to really like face himself and get to the other side. That's why I say introspection is scary. You can go crazy. Not, yes, medically, but more than that, you can just lose your identity. You can lose yourself in this realization that you're not who you thought you were,
because we didn't. Like, genuinely, you guys, what you see is honestly worse than what it was. And that is the extent of it, period. And yeah, it's just,
I believe that.
it's hard. Like,
Nick, you seemed very.
I believe that outside of Nick showing up and banging on the door and stuff. Like, no, why? Like, Nick was literally in his apartment screaming like a child right underneath. So here's Nick, obnoxious Nick saying, I can hear footsteps above me. Do you think they can't hear you below? Screaming like a... You know what I mean? Like, here's Nick screaming in the middle of the night. No, why? Fuck me, my life. And then what? You know what I mean? Like, please, you're not throwing a tantrum so they can hear you. Please grow up.
Uncomfortable.
A lot of people
As he should
a lot of
be.
people are
Like,
talking about it, and it's a lot of like two things. If I don't think it happened, regardless if it did or it didn't. I don't think it happened, but
He doesn't sound too sure. He doesn't sound confident. But also, can't the cameras tell if it happened or not? Maybe not. Maybe they don't stay overnight.
the perception is that it did. That was my perception. After speaking with Sandy,
Absolutely not. I think we all agreed when we watched the show, they obviously didn't have sex. I didn't get any indication that they had sex. For real. I don't think they had sex. I just don't think so. If they did, I'd be shocked. I fully do not believe I don't have any reason to think they had sex.
I believe her. I do.
Yeah.
I trust her. I don't. We're not at a point in life where like there's anything but
She would
support.
have a reason
Yeah,
to
like
like you.
I
trust me, you guys. Like
it's the relationship is
it's
like there is no more of that. It's at this point like radical honesty with each other about how we can best figure out what we did wrong in the relationship and move forward. I'm in a new relationship. It's not that part. That ship has sailed. But I think that in the experience, I felt like there was a really heavy connection, regardless of what that meant, whether it's holding each other at night or loving on each other or being intimate or being physical or even emotional. All of that was unfolding. And when I watched it, I was like, whoa, this is.
Yeah, Chat says she didn't even seem like she was that into JR anyway. Yeah, I didn't even feel like she was that into JR. I didn't even think JR was fully into her. I just think he liked feeling seen. And I think Sandy liked being there for somebody and helping somebody. And honestly, in comparison to Nick, JR was very receptive to Sandy's help. I think Sandy likes to help people, maybe fix people. That could be her toxic trait. But Sandy feels very motherly in a sense. Like there's a little bit of mother energy from her, which probably is bad. Maybe fixer energy. I'm not sure. But like JR was really receptive to that energy, which must have felt really good for Sandy, versus Nick is not receptive to Sandy. And so, it felt very much like, it just felt like that intimacy when someone sees you in a way that no one has. And even if it's not like in that real way, like all the way, even a little bit can feel like, wow. Like I really feel seen by you. And then people mistake that for like, this is my person. But like, no, they can't just see you a little bit. Your person is going to see all like you, like the consciousness that is you fully, not just parts of you. And I feel like that parts of you can feel so powerful. It clogs our brain.
This looks pretty.
I was too. I was
real.
like, what the fuck?
And regardless of if they had sex or not, to me, it looked very real. I do believe that it was a real connection. And I also believe that it would have been, I think everything happens for the right reason, right? Like had I not spun and like I was completely zen and we got back together and like perhaps did end up with an engagement. And then I saw that, like, then it would have been a whole nother mess of stuff to have to deal with. And, I think everything happens for the right weird twisted reason in some way. And like, I did feel that we were separating as a couple. And I do think that they both leaned into the experience pretty quickly and in a way that wasn't very settling for myself to observe. But I do not believe that they had sex.
With that being
You
said,
didn't do anything, like at all.
Sandy, I do apologize we've recapped the show from the start, and I have said
heard
several
you.
times that I thought that y'all fucked. Obviously, I haven't spoken to you in person.
Right, of
So,
course.
for you to look at me and say like, no, it did not happen. I
No,
do
no.
believe you. And I can imagine how frustrating and how fucking annoying it
hard,
must be
yeah.
for everyone in the world to say you fucked a man, you didn't.
Right. Yep.
So I am sorry
sucks.
for
no,
my
no,
part.
that's okay. I mean, look, here's the thing. I don't really like take this type of stuff personally because we're on a TV show. This is what we signed up for. We're putting our life, our relationship out there for people to judge. I'm a big fan of reality shows. I would be like, oh, damn. Like, so when I'm seeing this, I don't blame anybody for thinking that. Like, of course. But it's just frustrating because it's like, that's not actually what happened. That's not really. But, I think that's on us for being a bit too, like, leaning into the flirtiness and kind of leading with that when really that was like this in terms of our trial marriage and our connection. It was mostly all like mental and emotional, truly. And it sucks that like you don't get to see any of those conversations because people really are just like, you guys were just here to mess around and whatnot. And it's hurtful for me because I really worked on a lot while we were in there. And I challenged JR to work on a lot too. And that's where you hear me say, oh, I'm trying to train you. Like, obviously that wasn't the right wording in that moment, but like I was trying to challenge JR so much to show up better for either Zaina or any other person that he's with. We dug into like his childhood, his marriage, and just his mindset of things that he was holding on to. And I was trying to I got into arguments with him over these things. I'm like, you better be making Zaina breakfast every morning, because he would make breakfast every damn morning and was very much like wanting to just have it for himself. And so there was just a lot of different things that I was challenging him to, think about the partnership over just yourself and the social media conversation, which we don't really see much of. But
I do also think JR is more at fault of this perception of the two of you than you are. I think if you were
Way more,
placed
yeah.
with someone else, I don't
Yeah,
think people would be speculating on any of that.
No,
Right.
it was clear that he wanted people to think that, and he
Which
wanted
is
people to
hurtful.
think that he had a big
Yeah.
old,
yeah,
he was
sucks.
peacocking the whole time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nick, I'm curious.
I'll be real. I think JR was also being heavily sarcastic some of the time, and people might have taken it seriously. Like when JR, I don't remember if it showed up in my clips, but when JR was like, Nick got the same tattoo as me because I'm best, he wants to be like me. I think he was being funny, right? I know I'm autistic, but I read that as like trying to be funny. I didn't read that as like literally. I don't know. I was reading a lot of sarcasm from JR, like a lot of childish humor from JR. I don't know. Oh, I would love to see gay men's season of Ultimatum. I would love to see that. There is a queer season, but it's women and AFAB people. I don't know if there's any non-binary people in that show. I don't remember. But I would love to see gay men Ultimatum. Let's go.
Final question. I know we have to wrap up. What did you learn from that tattoo?
Fortune favors the bold.
To keep getting more tattoos. I mean,
No, but seriously, I mean, like,
honestly,
all jokes aside,
yeah.
I mean, that's a wild story.
It is wild, and there's
And it
no
was a
way I
wild
knew he had
choice.
it. I mean, it's tiny on his hands.
That was crazy.
I'm a big
That was
believer that we learn.
wild.
I don't believe everything happens for a reason. I think shit happens, and I
That's
think we're either willing to learn from it or we're not.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Hey, that's true. I actually agree with that. I hate this host, but I do agree with that. You know, I agree. Like, you either, like, shit just happens, like, life happens, you learn from it or you don't. And I feel like this host is one of the worst people I've ever seen in my life, and yet has some bangers once in a while.
What did you learn from that? Because I hope you learned something.
To read the stencil when he puts it on.
well, it was. I wanted both. So this is not like it's not some
so at
random
some point you're gonna
mistake.
get the other one.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not.
Oh,
I'm either
really?
gonna
You
get,
wanted Fortune favors the
Yeah, I
bold?
was either gonna
That's
get
so
Fortune
not
favors the
your
bold or Love
vibe.
Conquers All, and then I was in there like super emo. I'm like, fucking Love Conquers All. Let's do it. Like this will be. I'll show up, and then
Yeah.
I had given him 2 stencils. I think I slept maybe 20 minutes prior to that. I think you can see in my eyes I was pretty out of it. But also not the best time to get a tattoo, but I have more. I'm going to get more. Like it doesn't.
same.
But I do think that the right tattoo was put on my body.
Maybe the lesson is
Like,
don't get like a generic saying.
Yeah, literally. Like,
Like,
Nick also has enjoy.
Coming
No,
from him, he's
Nick
an
also
artist,
has
like-
enjoy the ride backwards on his chest so that it
because
reads
I
when
wanted
he
it.
looks in the mirror.
Just
No.
me. You know,
did
what?
you?
No else who has that tattoo? Nobody.
Well, you haven't seen everyone in the world
Right.
naked.
I don't. Anyways,
Like,
That's
okay,
so
Marky
funny.
Diamond.
why are you coming at me right
no,
now?
no, I'm just saying. You're coming at him.
He got the same tattoo as his arch rival on accident. You know, I'm just.
I mean, I didn't know he had it, but he's also not my arch rival.
I'm just fucking with
I think it's like I think anybody would have been into Sandy that was gonna date her. And
Yeah, I think he gets way too much fucking credit than
Like,
he deserves.
I think that I was a little concerned about the authenticity from the beginning, and I did express that to her.
with him or
Yeah, I felt like I was again, part of me was protective, and I didn't think that it was like necessarily. I don't know, just didn't feel right. Something felt off. But I don't have, I think there's a lot in this show that's like people are experiencing this, people are experiencing that, and then we're seeing clips, and then people are saying this, people are saying there's a lot of telephone going on, and then there's the humans that are experiencing trying to figure out if they want to stay together for the rest of their lives. And
Well, I think we definitely want to thank you both for being so vulnerable and so open, and especially you, Nick, for sharing some of things that you went through and experienced. And I know that probably wasn't easy. So thank you for doing that. I'm sure it's going to help a
just
lot of people.
sitting on this couch together. Props to both of you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it says a lot about like our relationship and just like, the love and respect that we have for each other as humans. It was a really crazy thing that we went through, and I feel like it kind of brought out the worst in all of it. But like for us to be able to come together and do this, I mean, I think it says a lot.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. I wish you both nothing but the best. I really do. It's been fun getting to know the people, and
Yeah.
it was very fun to watch.
Sorry.
It was, if nothing
Yeah.
else,
You did make
You're
good
welcome,
TV.
guys.
you delivered. Yeah, no,
Happy
like, listen,
holidays. I'm like, Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Mrs.
Yeah.
Claus.
Your
Like,
backs, your
you,
backs
Santa.
are,
Gift
should
that
be
just
sharp.
keeps
Should
on
be sharp.
I need a
Carrying-
massage because my back
Yeah, you guys did carry the season.
Did.
So
Carrying
did.
this, yeah.
there is
Mhm.
that.
It hurts.
Thank you guys for listening. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, guys.
Bye.
Interesting. This channel has interviewed like the whole cast, which I don't really have the spoons for. I just came on to see this one. And I know you guys are saying like, watch the Zaina one, watch the other ones. I hadn't planned on watching like the whole cast and crew though. I hadn't even planned to stream today, by the way. This was just like, we did grocery shopping today. We did Mondays or like, get up the podcast, which I tried to film the podcast like 6 times and it just wasn't coming out. And I was like, fuck it, we're not doing the podcast. And then I woke up and I was editing for Love is Blind. And then I went to the store and we did grocery shopping today and like cleaning and just like that kind of stuff. And then I was like, I kind of have the spoons to stream. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. And now I'm here. So I did not have the intention of doing anything beyond this, but I think we can say this, regardless of what the other interviews are like, I think we can say this podcast host is the worst person I've ever seen. I think that's really the lesson. It's like, these are the worst people on the internet. But I really, with peace and love, I'm sure the rest of the interviews are just as spicy or interesting or as revealing. I think my assessments of everybody on the show were pretty good. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should watch more follow-up interviews on my own. But I will say that Nick sucks. It was clear in the show. And anyone who defends his abusive behavior is absolutely not a safe person to be around. Period. Actually, I'm not even gonna play with you. Get ready for Kevin Can Go F Himself. We're reviewing it next week, Saturday, I think, with the panel. The girls are back. And I just know right? Next week. I think that panel's going to be spicy. I can feel it. So come, because like, listen, it's a controversial show in terms of like good guys, bad guys, who's a good person, who's not a good person. Kevin can go F himself on Netflix. There's 2 seasons. Watch it. Come to the stream on Saturday, the 22nd. Saturday the 22nd, 9 p.m. CET. So what is that? That's like 3 p.m. Eastern, right? Is that right? Oh my God, I can't do the math conversion in my head for the hours. I think that's noon Pacific, right? Noon, 1, 2, 3 Eastern, 9 p.m. CET. Watch the show and come hang out with us, because again, it's going to be interesting to see who the panelists, like how the panelists feel about the characters, because I feel like it tells me a lot about you. And honestly, huge red flags depending on opinion. So come prepared so we can be like together. With that said, if anyone in your life is pro Nick, cut them out. Cut them out of your life. Tell them absolutely not. I know exactly what you're thinking, 'cause you're trash. You smell. Bye-bye. Okay, cut them out. Block human trash, okay? Speaking of human trash, David on Love is Blind, I said what I said. I cannot wait for you to see the second episode I have clipped. I am already ready to show it to you. I have to go edit it. I'm going to get it up for YouTube. It's done editing the first draft. Hopefully YouTube accepts it. Or probably not. It usually takes 5 to 10 drafts for them to accept it. Human trash. Okay? I can't wait for you to see it. It's going to go crazy. It's going to go crazy. Okay. Please have a great Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow for Frenemies. We're going to finish it before February's over, girls. It's happening. And then we'll go back to regular stream content for a while. All right. Have a good Monday. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Let me play some music on the way out. Play some music. Here we go, baby.